housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. One of the things I love about betting my favorite sports is that I'm always finding new player props or game props that I like. And what's cool about FanDuel Sportsbook is you can combine prop bets from multiple games and now even multiple sports. It's called Same Game Parlay Plus, and you can only find them on FanDuel. Combine NBA playoff player props you love with your favorite baseball home run hitters for a chance to score an even bigger payout. Klay Thompson absolutely lit it up, and I think that the Warriors are back to being the Warriors. If you don't want to build your own same-game parlay, check out their popular same-game parlay section where you can join the bets that other users are jumping on. And if you're new to FanDuel, use the promo code JGM to get your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Make every moment more by downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app using the promo code JGM so they know that I sent you. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issues non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
The Gallatin Hotel is a vibrant and charming boutique hotel tucked into East Nashville and was voted the #1 boutique hotel in East Nashville by TripAdvisor. Not only is the Gallatin unique by design, but they also give away the majority of their profits to those who need it most and provides beds, food, and supplies to Nashville's underserved communities and those experiencing homelessness. Just one more reason to love your stay at the Gallatin. Visit thegallatinhotel.com to book your stay now. The Gallatin Hotel. It's good vibes only.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McCabe, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have two choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUZ HD2 Laverne.
NASCAR is back. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. We are live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe in the house, filling in for Jared Stillman today. You know, S&C is the abbreviation for Stillman and Company.
Yeah.
But I feel like today it could stand for Suit and Caroline.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
Suit and Caroline in the house today. Chase, how we doing?
Outstanding.
Nick Keyser in the house as well. Appreciate Nick hanging out with us. Nick, how we doing?
Doing great. How are you all doing?
Doing well. We got TD joining us at 3 o'clock for the TD Power Hour, breaking down his thoughts, what he saw from the Titans and OTAs earlier this week. But first and foremost, I want to get into this because you know what time of year it is, Chase?
Off season?
It is power ranking season.
Power ranking season.
It is
list
power
season.
ranking season, list season, which goes along quite nicely with the offseason. Pro Football Focus puts out their power rankings ahead of the 2022 season, and they kind of break it down into a few categories. True contenders for the top teams in the league, could be their year as kind of that second tier of teams. And then there's the third tier, and that's where I want to focus on because that's where the Tennessee Titans lie. Eyes on the playoffs is the tier where Pro Football Focus puts the Tennessee Titans. Now, of course, whenever I opened up this article, the first place I wanted to look is where are the Titans in this list?
Sure.
And I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I thought, good God, where are the Titans? 17 is where Pro Football Focus puts the Tennessee Titans. And this is what they had to say about the Titans and the reasoning for that. The number 1 seed in the AFC a season ago, the Titans did not have an offseason for the ages. Acquiring Robert Woods was a nice move, but they also traded away A.J. Brown rather than give him the big money contract he deserved. Rookie Treylon Burks is now under huge pressure to replace A.J. Brown. The Titans will be a good team again, but they lost ground to the rest of the contenders that clearly upgraded this offseason, so they will likely struggle to repeat last year's finish position. And there's so many thoughts on that and a lot of things I want to break down there. But I want to focus first and foremost on the placement of the Titans. Because let's say Pro Football Focus is right, and the Titans finish 17th in the league this season. That means the Titans miss the playoffs. The top 14 teams in the league make the playoffs. I don't think I would be okay with that. And I don't think a lot of Tennessee Titan fans out there would be okay with the Titans missing the playoffs. A year removed from being the top seed in the AFC, and of course, how they left the playoffs is a whole completely different story. But I think the Titans had such a successful season last year. The ending, of course, we can talk about if it was successful or a disappointing season or not. But really, in the regular season, I think the Tennessee Titans outperformed a lot of people's expectations.
Well, especially with all the injuries.
And I view this as, mentioning A.J. Brown, of course. That's going to be a national story where the national media looks at the Tennessee Titans saying, okay, one of your best, if not your best, offensive asset is now gone. That doesn't necessarily make you a better team in 2022. And for the most part, I would agree. I've said that so many times, that trading away A.J. Brown doesn't necessarily make the Tennessee Titans a better team in 2022. Does it make them a better team in 23, 24, 25? Maybe so. I think that's more so a long-term move rather than a short-term, let's capitalize on this short-term window right now. But I go back to, is that okay? Is that enough for Titans fans? Because I don't think it is, one. But my second point is that the reality that the Tennessee Titans could be facing? Is that really what could be coming down the stretch for the Titans? A.J. Brown, albeit in and out of the lineup last year, albeit the Titans won a lot of games, not because of A.J. Brown. They won a lot of games because of Derrick Henry. They won a lot of games because of that defensive line. You can't tell me A.J. Brown was the reason why they beat the Rams. That was, in my opinion, wholeheartedly the defensive line. So you could make the argument that, losing A.J. Brown, that probably makes this offense take a step back. But also, they have this defensive line, the exact same core that they had last year. You could also make the argument that this defensive line could be even better with a healed Bud Dupree, a year under their belt with having a lot of chemistry. Of course, Jeffrey Simmons with the contract year coming up. You'd be naive to think that he wouldn't, put a little bit more. He wouldn't have a little bit more of a fire under his butt this year. And then you could also make the argument of Harold Landry coming off of just getting paid.
Yep.
Whatever that is there. That's a concern of, is he going to get fat and happy? Harold Landry had his best season last year.
Yeah, but I think Bud Dupree, you make a really good point with Bud Dupree, because if he's healthy, which he is right now, then...
knock on all the wood.
Yeah, I think Bud Dupree and Harold Landry, you're finally going to get that 1-2 punch that you were looking for.
But is that a reality? 17th in the NFL per Pro Football Focus. And of course, Pro Football Focus, take it with a grain of salt. They don't know everything. All of these power rankings get things wrong. They may overhype certain teams one year, underhype certain teams from another year. And that's what I want to do later in the show, is kind of look at Pro Football Focus's 2021 rankings, exactly how accurate were they and how much do we really have to take these rankings with a grain of salt. But I do think that is a reality that the Tennessee Titans could potentially be facing this year. Because the defense, you could make an argument, will take a step forward, or at least maintain the dominance that they had last season, which was pretty dang dominant. But is the offense going to take a step back? You look at Robert Woods, who is coming off of an ACL tear. He's a 30-year-old wide receiver coming off of an ACL tear. I fully believe that in this day and age in the NFL, an ACL tear is like a boo-boo. You're fine. Yeah. You're going to be fine. And you look at Treylon Burks.
But it takes a while.
You look at Treylon Burks, and a player who he's really a mystery. John Glennon had a good article put out last night that Treylon Burks is the Titans' biggest offseason mystery, and I would probably have to agree.
Yeah.
What can Treylon Burks be come week 1 against the New York Giants? How much can he really fill in that role, the hole that A.J. Brown left when he got traded?
Right now, he can't finish a practice.
He can't finish a practice, so it doesn't make you feel very good.
Yeah.
But I do think that, we talk about Treylon Burks being a mystery. I think this Tennessee Titans team is just as much of a mystery. They're
Sure.
a really difficult team to categorize. So while I say I do think it's a unfortunate reality that the Tennessee Titans and Titans fans could potentially be facing in the 2022 season of finishing 17th, not missing the playoffs, not winning the AFC South, I think that's just as much on the table as it is the Titans making the playoffs, winning the division, and being a really dominant team.
So what's interesting about power rankings, what I always do is I look what's around them in both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask yourself, okay, right now today, do you think that they're better than any of the teams around them? They have New England right after them in 18th. I would say that right now today, the Titans and New England are probably on par with each other. I mean, they're right there together. The Raiders, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all those three teams kind of are right around each other. They have the Colts 15th. Now that's interesting because is Matt Ryan really that much of an upgrade at this point in his career over Carson Wentz? People seem to think so, but I've watched Matt Ryan the last few years since the MVP year and going to the Super Bowl. I mean, he has declined. He's older. Father Time is undefeated. So you're going from a mediocre younger quarterback to an aging former MVP that how much better is he really? And we're not going to know until they start playing the games to see how his body holds up. Can he still throw it like he used to? They got weapons. They have some weapons on offense. So that's one to consider. Arizona, what
Another
is
question mark team.
It's a question mark because of the quarterback. Where is the quarterback at mentally? And Kyler Murray, is he all invested in Arizona, or is he only worried about his next payday?
And even still, not just mentally, because I do think that's a big part here, that the mental aspect and the relationship that he has with the Arizona Cardinals, but also how good of a quarterback is Kyler Murray really?
Right.
I think that he's been overhyped, in his first couple of years in the league, and I think a lot of people are starting to kind of wake up and smell the coffee about Kyler Murray, that he may not be this dynamo top 10 quarterback in the league that a lot of people expected him to be.
And then they got the Eagles at 13th. Like, really?
That's kind of a shock.
That's the first one of working backwards that I really have an issue with, because nothing against Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's quite good enough to have them be the 13th ranked team. And you're gonna say AJ Brown makes that much of a difference in that team. I mean, I know they drafted Nakobe Dean. That that's obviously going to help, but I don't know about that. I don't know about 13th for them.
I mean, a team quarterbacked by Jalen Hurts. So I use this term a lot. My friends and I use this term a lot, like in their dating lives, for example. If they meet someone new, I'm like, okay, how was it? We use the term plain bagel to describe someone. Because it's like, it's not really intimidating.
Hope I'm never called that.
No, of course not, Chase. You are not a plain bagel. You are an everything bagel, Chase.
Thank you.
It's like, oh, he was nice enough, and he had an average job. He was smart enough. There was nothing bad about him, but there was nothing great about him that really stood out. He's a plain bagel. That's how I look at Jalen Hurts in the quarterback world. He's a plain bagel. He's not great. He'll never be an elite quarterback. He's not terrible. I don't think he's going to throw games away. He's very much so a plain bagel. So I have a hard time thinking that a team with a plain bagel quarterback would be in that playoff ranking in the Pro Football Focus rankings, that the Eagles could go from just barely squeaking into the playoffs and getting stomped by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round to all of a sudden, being a top 15 team in the league. I don't necessarily see that coming to fruition.
There's a few more teams I have an issue with and where they have them.
And we will get to that. And another thing that I want to get to is, does A.J. Brown really make that much of a difference, both for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tennessee Titans? The Eagles getting hoisted so far up in the rankings and the Tennessee Titans kind of dropping farther than I expected them to be. Is A.J. Brown, does he make that big of a difference? Or is it really about something else when it comes to the Tennessee Titans? I want to get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. 615-737-1025. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, in for Jared Stillman today. You're listening to Stillman & Company. We are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
Is brought to you by the Nashville Super Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture eats strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with 3-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
I come from a military family.
That's Stasha at Genesis Diamonds talking about the Hero Rewards program at Genesis, providing special discounts every day for heroes in uniform.
Whatever their budget is, we're going to make sure it stretches the best for them and that they will get the most beautiful ring at the best value.
Special hero pricing on any item extends to all military plus police, fire, and first responders.
They make us have the great life we have, and we are eternally grateful for that.
Genesis Hero Rewards program and free services is yours for life, no matter where you move.
Travel anywhere in the world, we're one phone call away. So no matter where you're stationed, if you're military or if you're a police officer and you go to another state, we're going to take good care of you.
Of course, it doesn't hurt that Genesis owner Boaz Ramon is himself a veteran of the Israeli army.
Boaz, having served in the military, appreciates the military and what they do for us.
Genesis Diamonds, where our heroes in uniform get red carpet pricing and white glove treatment every day of the year.
Because they're there for us.
Genesis Diamonds and pre-owned Rolexes, continuously voted best jewelry store and best place to buy an engagement ring. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Ford South. Have you ever seen a commercial for something that they build up to be amazing, only to be completely disappointed? You have these high expectations, and then boom, all the wind taken from your sails. The product isn't what you expected, and you end up feeling let down and maybe even lied to. Sound familiar? So many car dealers promise more than they can deliver, and you end up with extra fees, and your payments end up higher than you expected. You don't get that when you shop at Newton. The price you see on the site is the price you pay at the store. You can even work your deal online with Newton FastPass. We want all our customers to have a VIP buying experience. You don't have to take our word for it. Hundreds of our customers leave reviews online each month talking about our honest and transparent buying experience. The proof is in the pudding. Come see for yourself. Shop and buy online with Newton FastPass at newtonfordsouth.com. See website for details, Pudding Pop, Bomb Pop, kingofpop.org.net. .com.edu.
It's on, it's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way, I'm watching a game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe in for Jared Stillman today. So, breaking down the Pro Football Focus rankings, the Tennessee Titans sitting at 17, the Indianapolis Colts at 15, and interestingly enough, the Philadelphia Eagles sitting at 13. And why do the Eagles matter? Because the Eagles were at 13, and who's the first name that they cite and being listed that high?
Arthur Juan Brown. One A.J. Brown.
So I have to ask myself, does A.J. Brown really make that much of a difference? Not just for the Eagles for being listed that high, but for the Tennessee Titans being listed lower than I really expected them to be. I don't want to, no disrespect to A.J. whatsoever. A.J. is a baller, very much so. I mean, you could look at that 49ers game, and you could say that A.J. single-handedly won that game for the Titans. A.J.'s done plenty of good things for the Titans. But then I also look at the exact reason why I had no problem with the Titans trading A.J. Because he gets hurt a lot. He's in and out of games. He loves Twitter.
Yeah.
The attitude, it can be a question mark. Drops footballs. AJ's not a perfect wide receiver. AJ is a top 15 wide receiver in the league, which is good, but it's not great. It's not elite. And I don't think that a subtraction of AJ or an addition of AJ can be the difference or will be the difference between playoffs and not playoffs. I guess we'll see. This year, Ryan Tannehill without A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill without his favorite target. I guess we'll see how that looks, if he really will end up being the difference between playoffs and no playoffs. But if you look at the reason why the Titans made the playoffs, it wasn't because of A.J.
No.
A.J. didn't hurt. It wasn't because of him. And the Titans didn't lose that playoff game because of A.J. It wasn't him.
No. I mean, he had a really good game.
He had a great catch. He had
Yeah.
a good game. He wasn't the reason why the Titans were the first seed in the AFC, and he wasn't the reason why the Titans got bounced in the playoffs.
part of
look
the
at this
machine.
list. He's part of it. Yes, he was a key cog in this Titans machine that was able to make the playoffs last year, but I don't think he was the deciding factor. So I look at this list and I ask, is it about A.J. Brown on the Philadelphia Eagles side? Is it about A.J. Brown on the Titans side? Or is there something else on the Titans side? We talk about AJ. We talk about the new pass catchers entering this wide receiver core for the Tennessee Titans. Is it about AJ Brown, which you could make an argument for? Or is it about who was throwing balls to AJ Brown? Does the national media now have a bad taste in their mouth about Ryan Tannehill as much as we do after that playoff game?
Oh, I don't know if it's now. I think, now you did have some that thought he was underrated and didn't get the credit he deserved, but now they're all backpedaling, going, see, that's the same Ryan Tannehill in Miami. That's the same one. Now he's with the Titans, and he's showing everything that he did in Miami. And to an extent, I mean, he is.
Yeah.
He 3 picks in one game. But here's my thing overall on this power ranking, because I don't think they're necessarily wrong. Like, anywhere 14th to 18th is probably the right spot for the Titans right now.
But between 14 and 18, that's a really big difference.
That
That's
is
a difference
sure.
between making the playoffs and not. But I don't disagree with you. I do think the Titans fit in that middle road somewhere.
Sure. And I think the defense is going to be either the same or better, if not better. And the defense is going to have to carry the load. The question is going to be the offense. But my question to all of you and to you, Caroline, is even though it's very easy to say losing A.J. Brown and, basically replacing A.J. Brown, Julio Jones that was always hurt, and Anthony Ferkser with Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, and Austin Hooper. Which is better? I don't think we really know. So the question is the offense maybe going to just be the same, and it's all dependent on what the quarterback can do? Now, the other part of that is you have Derrick Henry back. What kind of player is Derrick Henry going to be? If Derrick Henry all of a sudden becomes, the upper echelon normal running back in the league, okay, that's not the end of the world. He's not rushing for 2,000 yards, but if he's getting you 1,400, that's
Still
not that bad.
Pretty damn good season.
Yeah. I mean, so that I think is why this is such a hard team to read, just like the Colts are. I mean, I think people want to give the edge to the Colts right now because they didn't trade their arguably their best player or one of their best players at the receiver position too. And so they want to give the edge to the Colts, but I think they have just as many questions throughout their team as the Titans do. If the defense comes back just as good or better, then I think this is a playoff team, no matter what happens, because the age-old saying, defense wins championships. Can the offense do enough to score points to help them win these games? Because the defense is going to go out and make stops. They are. So that's what it's going to be for me moving forward. But it's a fascinating discussion for us to have as we sit here, coming off the first OTA. You don't have everybody there. We're making a big deal out of that. Yet, at the end of the day, this is kind of what they are at this point. We'll have to see as we move into the season if they can be better offensively.
And that's what kind of my problem with these power rankings is I feel like they're almost burying the lead. They're almost focusing on something that I personally don't think is as much of a starter as they really think it is. They're talking about A.J. Brown, the Titans trading A.J. Brown away, the Philadelphia Eagles acquiring A.J. Brown. But if you want to focus in on the Titans side of things, I feel like this list just focuses on A.J. Brown because that's the most recent acquisition. That's the most, Sports Center headline, sexy thing to talk about is trading away A.J. Brown.
He's a big departure.
He's a big departure, no doubt. But I feel like these power rankings aren't necessarily telling or painting the exact full picture of the Tennessee Titans because trading away A.J. Brown is a big departure. But I think even more so than that, it's Derrick Henry. Can he come back and be full strength? Can he come back and be 100% Derrick Henry? Can he come back and be, a 15, 16, 17, 1,800-yard running back? I think that's a bigger X factor in my mind than A.J. Brown's departure. The defense. Can they be what they were last year and then some? Can they be better than last year? That's how the Titans won so many games last year, was the defense. I think that might be a bigger part of the pie than this Pro Football Focus article is leading on to. And I think Ryan Tannehill is another really big part of that story. It's not the most recent story. A.J. Brown is the most recent story. But let us not forget what Ryan Tannehill was last year. He took a big step back from 2019 and 2020. Well, was 2021 a fluke? Is he going to come back in 2022 and be what he was in 2019 and 2020? I probably wouldn't put my money on it. I probably am not expecting that. But I think that's part of this 2022 Tennessee Titans picture that this article isn't giving enough credit to. I think it's just the more obvious, more recent, more headline-y kind of story in A.J. Brown, but that doesn't necessarily tell the full picture of this Tennessee Titans team.
And something we haven't mentioned, and I'll give props to my text line, my personal text line, Chris Sanders, in all caps. It all depends on the offensive line, and he's right.
That's another huge part of the story.
He's right, and I'll take it a step further. It's more than just figuring out the left guard and the right tackle. Mm-hmm. Can Taylor Lewan return to form as a Pro Bowl left tackle? Ben Jones is getting up there. He's old for that position. Can he still? And I thought he was probably the most solid of the offensive line last year, but he had points where he was banged up. So can he continue to be solid at the center position? And can Nate Davis be more the 2020 Nate Davis than he was in 2021? Because Nate Davis regressed last year. Mm-hmm. Now you can argue, okay, was it because you had Quesenberry at right tackle and he was a step back from Dennis Kelly, which I still don't understand the Dennis Kelly move, but those are all very valid questions. But now he's going to be lined up next to a rookie or a second-year player or somebody off the, free agent market. You still don't know. So I think Chris is right. There is a lot on that offensive line, and that offensive line was not good last year as a whole. So I think if the offensive line can get to just where they give Tannehill a little more time, and yes, he can hold on to the ball too long sometimes, but give him time to go through his reads and his progression, you're going to see a big difference because then that's when we get into answering the question, okay, is Treylon Burks, what is Treylon Burks? Is Robert Woods back to being Robert Woods? Is Austin Hooper going to be the Atlanta Austin Hooper?
And you can't answer those questions if Tannehill's on the ground.
Bingo. Or running for his life.
Right.
And so I think it's a very interesting point. And my guess is the people that do these rankings, whether it's Pro Football Focus or any other publication, they have to factor all of that in.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We are right to your phones coming up next. What do you think about the Pro Football Focus rankings? Do you think it's more about A.J. Brown? Do you think it's more about Ryan Tannehill? Something else that we haven't mentioned? And also, we talk about Ryan Tannehill, but is there another AFC South quarterback that might be getting too much hype, the right amount of hype, not enough hype? We'll get into that coming up next. Plus, your phones. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, in for Jared Stillman. We're live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs. And I-840.
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams. This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Time to tell you about my friends at Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I absolutely love Hiller. I've been using them for years at my home, and when I moved, the first thing I did was I had Hiller come over to make sure everything was working great because I didn't want to be in the heat, and summer is coming. There is no better time to upgrade your essential home systems than this month with my friends at Hiller. Until the end of May, Hiller is offering 0 interest for 60 months on select new HVAC systems, 0 interest for 12 months on new tankless water heaters, 0 interest for 12 months on new whole home generators, and so if you know that you need a new system for your home, do it this month. These financing offers are available for a limited time to help you stay comfortable and cool all summer long, and you can handle the payments later. It's so easy. Again, this is another reason why I absolutely love telling you all about Hiller. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, happy you will be, or the service is free. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vanderbilt Commodores, and the Tennessee Volunteers. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
You purchased a fine European automobile because of the amazing drivability and great looks. Then someone slid into you during a rainstorm. European Collision Repair is Nashville's premier location for collision repairs. Their state-of-the-art facility is certified by 30 vehicle manufacturers. The best part is their customer service, and they can provide an estimate simply by you sending in a photo of your damage. If you have a fine European automobile, have the repairs done at European Collision Repair. Go to EuropeanCollisionRepair.com.
Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is hosting Indy 500 watch parties across all Jonathan's Grill Middle Tennessee locations. Come join your fellow IndyCar fans for Sunday's Indianapolis 500. 102.5 The Game will be at the Jonathan's Grill in Mount Juliet, and you can enjoy great specials on Michelob Ultra and Bud Light Seltzer. Patrons visiting any Jonathan's location will be eligible to enter the grand prize drawing for a VIP experience at the August 5th through 7th Big Machine Music City Grand Prix.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
Tennessee First Lady Maria Lee.
Every year, there are 20,000 children in Tennessee who have been abused or neglected. CASA volunteers provide crucial support in speaking up for these kids and supporting them in their search for a safe, loving, and permanent home. CASA volunteers can be the caring, consistent adult in a child's life who can make all the difference. To connect with a CASA program in your area, go to beforthechild.org.
Brought to you by Tennessee CASA in cooperation with the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The sounds.
Play ball! Deep left field by Reyes. Back is Dawson looking up. It's gone!
The Nashville Sounds continue their set against the Toledo Mudhens.
Swing and a miss, strike three. Sounds win.
Coverage begins at 5:20 on your home for Sounds Baseball.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, I'm Gary Smith, head coach of Nashville SC. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and for Jared Stillman today, breaking down Pro Football Focus's preseason power rankings because it is power ranking season. Best season of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gotta love it. Got to love it. But we've been writing down some factors that could be contributing to the Titans sitting at 17 in the Pro Football Focus power rankings. A.J. Brown's exit? Is it the offensive line? Is it the new core of pass catchers? Or is it Tannehill? Wanted to ask your thoughts. We'll go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025 if you have a thought. Adam in Portland is up next.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about Pro Football Focus. I don't study them because it's pretty much anybody outside of Nashville loves to bag on the Titans. It's always been like that. Until recently, we get no primetime games. Our market's bad. I don't think you and Jared have helped Miss Caroline just because I feel like y'all have been crazy about Tannehill this whole season, which I did not like the way he handled himself in the Cincinnati game and then just disappearing on us. I wasn't a fan of that, but I think he'll be better this year. For y'all to say you don't know if he's going to be better, I think he'll be a lot better. He's actually got somebody who could replace him behind him now.
Adam, why would I have any reason to think that he will be better?
You have never seen a more surprising player than when Tannehill came in and completely changed the Titans. So I don't think there's going to be – there was no chance Woodside was going to come in the game, period, ever. But everybody knows Malik Willis is a good football player, and he could come in the game. So I think we'll be a lot better this year.
All right, thank you for your call, Adam. To his point about Tannehill, about me and Jared being mean about Tannehill in the offseason, I'll give credit where credit is due. I would be happy to swallow my comments about Tannehill if he comes back and just absolutely balls out. I'd be happy to swallow my comments about Tannehill. However, I call it like I see it. He threw 3 interceptions in a playoff game. He single-handedly threw that game away. I don't think that you really necessarily deserve any sort of good credit for that. So I don't take back anything I said about Tannehill. But to say that he may improve this year, I'm not counting that out as a possibility, but I'm also not going to rest my laurels on hoping Tannehill will be better. I say it so many times. I mentioned it about the Predators last week. Hope is not a strategy.
No.
So is that a possibility that Tannehill returns to 2019-2020 form? The Tannehill that just seemed like Superman and got that team to the AFC Championship? Like, maybe. But what I saw in 2021 doesn't necessarily make me feel confident in that. And I am probably going to assume that if I have to assume anything about Tannehill, I have to assume that he's going to be more like he was in 2021 than he was 2 years ago.
Yeah. But again, I go back to something I said. What you saw in 2021 for at least half the season. Now, he wasn't playing great before Henry got hurt. So I will recognize that.
Yes.
But you have a bad offensive line, and you take away Derrick Henry, which makes defenses basically treat you like another team where they're not stacking the box and going up, trying to slow down the best player. That doesn't help matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was certainly a factor with him. To Adam's point with Malik Willis, I think as a Titans fan, you don't want to see Malik Willis on the field.
No.
You do not want to see him at all. Like, I'm even kind of halfway against designing packages for him to have him out there. Just there's nothing wrong with the backup or the third string or the quarterback of the future standing on the sideline with an earpiece and a clipboard. There's nothing
especially a quarterback who didn't take snaps under center at Liberty, especially a quarterback who had one-word play calls in college. I talked about this yesterday with David Beauclair, and I said what I think the biggest national Titans offseason story will be is Malik Willis.
Sure.
His development, his quarterback competition with Ryan Tannehill, his relationship with Ryan Tannehill. But in my opinion, that's such a non-story for me at this point. Of course, his development is important. Of course, you want to see him continue to take steps forward. I don't expect to see Malik Willis on the field in 2022. So that's not my most important offseason storyline when it comes to the Tennessee Titans.
They need to treat him. I can remember a couple of summers ago, I filled in for Jared and sat with Floyd, and we were having similar conversations like this. And I brought up, we went down this road of, quarterbacks and their development, and I said, did you guys go into the plan with McNair that he wasn't going to play for a year or two? He barely played the first 2 years of his career. He was back up to Chris Chandler. He made some appearances. And he said, no, the plan all along was he wasn't going to play, that he just needed to develop. He needed to practice. He needed to watch. He needed to just sit there and observe how the games went. And then eventually, it got to the point where, okay, now let's see what we got. And those days in the NFL, you just don't see it anymore. And he obviously referenced the contracts that, a lot of the contracts dictate that you're paying so much money, and with the way the contracts are, that you basically have 5 years to see what you got in that guy. And so they want to throw him in there. But I think you have seen a ton of quarterbacks come into this league with a ton of hype and potential, and they flame out because they are rushed into it. Marcus Mariota could be a prime example of that. That had he had time to develop, it could have been a different story. Jake Locker, I will never forget. Jake Locker's rookie year, he backed up Matt Hasselbeck, and then they gave him the job the next year. And I just remember thinking, you know what? I don't think he's ready. Let him back. At least give him half a year, and let him back up. And if things go wrong, then you can make the switch. But with as much money as involved now in first-round picks especially, this is where the Titans have the advantage, because this is a guy that was in the third round, and you can just give him time. You're not paying him a huge contract. He's on a rookie deal for a third-round pick, and so you can let him sit there and develop. And ultimately, I think that's what they're going to do.
And the Titans are in the perfect position with Malik Willis. He booms. He's the quarterback of the future. Then good job, John Robinson. You found the future of your franchise in the third round. If he busts, it was a third-round pick. That's okay. You created a little bit of a quarterback competition with your starting quarterback the year you drafted him. If he's not the guy, that's fine. It was a third-round pick. Go find another one. I think the Titans are in a perfect position with Malik Willis, and it's not an exact science in terms of sitting or starting. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes, sat. Best quarterback in the league, Tom Brady, sat. Two-time MVP, back-to-back MVP, Aaron Rodgers, sat. But you could also look at Russell Wilson, who played his first year, Josh Allen, who played his first year. It's not an exact science. I really do think it's a case-by-case basis. But the Titans are in the perfect position that Tannehill's their starter. They can afford Malik Willis to sit a year. Matt Corral, I think in Carolina, they want him to take that job. They want him to start over Sam Darnold probably this year, whether he's ready or not. Malik Willis has all the time in the world to develop until he's ready. And if he's not ready, go find another quarterback. Titans are in the perfect position. But on the topic of quarterbacks, we talk about the Titans quarterbacks, and we're looking at Pro Football Focus's power rankings, which list the Titans at 17, the Indianapolis Colts at 15. And in the NFL, you can really only be as good as the teams around you, the teams in your division. And the Titans are in a great spot that they're in a trash division. They're in
right now, yeah.
Right now in two divisions, one team that's rebuilding, two teams that are rebuilding. And so it's the Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts sitting at 15 in this power rankings. And I've looked around at, discussion nationally and power rankings, putting teams wherever they are. And I have to think, is the national media maybe overhyping Matt Ryan? We talk about the national media talking about A.J. Brown a lot when it comes to the Titans. I think the bigger story here is Tannehill. What kind of form, which Tannehill will we see in 2022? Is it the 2019-2020 Tannehill? Is it the 2021 Tannehill? That's a question mark, I think, in all of our minds. But with Matt Ryan, when he was in Atlanta, I don't think anyone touted Matt Ryan as being this, gift from the football gods. But I feel like ever since he entered Indianapolis, in everyone's minds, Indianapolis has just gone not up a step, but just shot up to the top with Matt Ryan. Like this whole entire offense is in such different hands than Matt Ryan. And I would totally admit that Matt Ryan is a step up from Carson Wentz. But just how much of a step up is Matt Ryan really?
I mean, that's the big question. And, I'm glad you brought that up because Jeff on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says Brady has certainly aged and slowed his role as well, but has had a good offensive line to keep his career going. If the Colts can do a good job of protecting Matt Ryan, I think they will be more than two hands full for the Titans. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, that is the key, especially with an older quarterback.
Offensive line.
If you have a good offensive line,
which Indianapolis does,
that is going to give them time, and you have the weapons, which they have, then I think Titans fans should be scared of Matt Ryan. I mean, I agree with you. He is an upgrade over Carson Wentz. The question is just by how much, and that is all going to depend on how they protect him, how the weapons are able to help him around him, and then what the defense can do too. So I like the system he's in, with Frank Reich. I think that's a good offensive system for Matt Ryan, and obviously he's going to bring a lot of the things that he's done for years which is, similar to, kind of the system that they're running here. I mean, that goes back to that Shanahan system and Matt LaFleur and all those guys that have been a part of that process for a long time. So, but I would be concerned. Now, you mentioned the division as a whole, that it's a trash division. I don't disagree with you on that. But if Jacksonville has, with all the acquisitions that they've made, with how busy they were, with what they've been building the last few years, and now that they actually have a coach that is not going to be a sideshow like they had last year that can help develop the quarterback, I'd take advantage while you can right now. Because, again, big if, the owner stays out of the way and all those things, they could have the pieces to actually put something together. It's Jacksonville. And then Houston, that's a mess in its own.
And that'll be a mess for a few years. But that's exactly what I want to get into coming up next is just how much better are the Indianapolis Colts with Matt Ryan, and how much more of a threat, if at all, are the Jags and the Texans to the Titans in the AFC South this year. I want to get into that coming up next. Plus your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline Fenton Chase in for Jared today. Stillman and Company. We're live on ESPN 1025 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Ample Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway
on ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobis. All day long, isolated to scattered showers and storms possible in our forecast. A low-end severe weather threat possible, damaging wind being the biggest threat we have to watch out for. Highs today will be in the middle to upper 70s.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
From elegant to contemporary, Social Furniture has it all. And right now, get no interest financing on any purchase through Memorial Day. Save hundreds, even thousands on top brand name bedroom suites, living room and dining sets. Thousands of combinations in stock, ready for immediate delivery. All colors and styles are designer brand names, such as Woodhouse, Sealy, Serta, Kincaid, Bernhardt, Stearns & Foster, and Bassett. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture opens 7 days a week on the west side on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center.
Summer heat is on the way. Is your air conditioner ready? Costs are rising everywhere. Groceries, gas, utilities, you name it. Is your AC old, inefficient, and cost you more than it should? Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Qualified buyers have up to 72 months no interest for a new York air conditioner and 6 months no interest for repairs. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York certified comfort expert company. Schedule now at springhillac.com.
Bring your hive together with Spirited Hive. It's Hive O'Clock. What is Hive O'Clock? It's connecting or celebrating with your hive. A time to be present and create shared memories. At Spirited Hive, we become aficionados discerning what goes best with bourbon, tequila, and vodka in a canned cocktail. Bourbon whiskey with rosemary infused with honey and lemon. Tequila ginger infused with honey and lime. Or vodka cranberry infused with honey and lime. Available to purchase on reservebar.com or tap room for delivery within the hour. Join us at Spirited Hive on Instagram to see what the buzz is all about.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution. And Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Jared Stillman.
Football season, and then football season becomes hockey season, and then it becomes draft season, and then it becomes hockey playoff season.
And company.
Maybe this is something to just get people a little bit interested.
It's a matter of not having too many chefs in the kitchen.
Catch Stillman and Company on your drive home. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And I can spot it from a mile away.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. Darren McFarland.
I feel like we're a better playoff team.
Willie Donick.
You're in a window of a division you can win.
Chase McCabe.
I'm not signing him for more than $1 million.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Man, it makes me almost want to throw up because he reminds me of Peyton so much. He's the epitome of a leader, right? In meetings, he's vocal. You know, he's trying to get that connection with the receivers, trying to get extra as much as possible. I don't know how it was last year or the year before, but just this year, that I can see, the guy's he's a vocal leader. He's out there, he's grinding with them, you know. And I really feel like with his years and experience in this league, it'll kind of help these young guys, you know. I remember just having a quarterback with some experience. That was everything for me, you know. And I kind of, add that in like with Andrew Luck when he first got in. He was still trying to learn, you know. So it's like we always bumping our heads on the wall, you know what I'm saying? So he comes in. He's vocal. He demands excellence. He admits his mistakes. As a receiver, that's all you love. As long as you know you're not perfect as a quarterback, you're good.
That was a longtime Indianapolis Colts, former Colts wide receiver Reggie Wayne on Matt Ryan. And the first part of that clip says it makes you want to throw up how much Matt Ryan reminds me of Peyton Manning. Ooh. Whoa. Wow. That is a glowing recommendation from Reggie Wayne, and that is exactly.
I feel like he's allowed to say that, but I don't know if I would say that.
I wouldn't say that, but also I didn't catch passes from Peyton Manning, so what? Yeah, what do I know? But and that's what brings up the question: is how much more can Matt Ryan really elevate this Indianapolis Colts team? Because I feel like nationally, the perception of the Colts has completely shifted. Getting rid of Carson Wentz, bringing in a veteran in Matt Ryan. I feel like everyone nationally, or the discussion nationally surrounding the Indianapolis Colts is, oh my goodness gracious, this is a completely new team. Imagine what this Colts team is able to do without Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, who threw so many games away for the Colts. Carson Wentz, who wasn't able to lead the Colts to the playoffs this past season. So I have to ask, is Matt Ryan really as much of an upgrade for this Indianapolis Colts team as a lot of the national media may be leading on to? As much as Reggie Wayne is leading on to, comparing him to Peyton Manning. So much so it makes me want to throw up.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment.
I wouldn't say that, but, to each his own. But I look at Matt Ryan. Let's look at last year, for example, 2021. And, of course, in Atlanta, the Falcons weren't doing Matt Ryan any favors with the personnel that they had out there on the field. But last year, Matt Ryan threw for almost 4,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I'll compare that to Ryan Tannehill, for example. Ryan Tannehill had just over 3,700 yards, about 200 shy of Matt Ryan, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Matt Ryan and Ryan Tannehill last year didn't really have that different of seasons. Matt Ryan had a 90.4 quarterback ranking, Ryan Tannehill 89.6. The margin of difference between Matt Ryan and Ryan Tannehill, at least in 2021, is razor thin. And you can make the argument, well, Matt Ryan didn't have very many players to throw to. He didn't really have that stout of an offensive personnel. And then you could look at Ryan Tannehill and say, well, yeah, but Ryan Tannehill's pass catchers were in and out of the lineup. A.J. Brown was hurt. Julio Jones was hurt majority of the season. And even when he was on the field, he didn't really contribute a lot. So everyone's saying that Matt Ryan is elevating this Indianapolis Colts team. I don't disagree. I do think that Matt Ryan makes this Colts team a lot better. But does it make it better than the Titans?
Right.
Ryan Tannehill and Matt Ryan had almost identical seasons last year. So what is the difference there? Is it just the change? Is it the change in the Indianapolis Colts that, from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan, which on paper would make you better? Is it the change for the Titans from A.J. Brown to Treylon Burks? Does that on paper make you worse? But if we're going to look at the quarterbacks alone, it really isn't that different.
So let's play this game, Caroline. This is what, while you were talking and making some great points, I was thinking about this. Instead of comparing the quarterbacks, let's compare the weapons that they have.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So, tight end. Let's start at the tight end position. I guess for Matt Ryan, his go-to, at least today, is Mo Alley Cox.
Mm-hmm.
For Tannehill, it'll be Austin Hooper. I would say those are some question marks there. I mean, Mo Alley Cox is solid, but is he a true go-to starting tight end? And they've added a little bit, have a couple rookies. So just like the Titans have Chig that they've added, who many believe is the tight end of the future. All right, the receiver position. Would you rather have Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman, or would you rather have Treylon Burks and Robert Woods?
That's a hard question since they both are such question marks, but I lean Robert Woods and Treylon Burks.
See, right now, I probably lead having Pittman and Paris Campbell, but Pittman, I think, is starting to become a solid receiver in this league based on everything you just said with the unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, running back, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, two best backs in the league.
Probably lean Jonathan Taylor.
Today, maybe, because of the unknowns, I'd still take Henry. You know, but again, that's how close things really are.
Right.
You know, you do the comparison of the two quarterbacks together, and their stats are very similar. I'll be curious of Tehran's thoughts on this too, coming up in a few minutes. And I mean, even from the backup, you know, running or the second running back position, you know, you have Hines in Indy, and you know now you're going to have a couple of different options at running back for the Titans, which right now, I mean, like Haskins to me is one of the steals of the draft, at least on paper. So I'm really excited about that and what he can be. So I think that's why these two teams are going to be so close offensively, because I don't know if either side really pulls away from the other, at least right now on paper.
And you make the good point about kind of veteran quarterbacks needing that protection. Indianapolis undoubtedly has a better offensive line, at least on paper, from what we've seen in 2021. And with the Titans' offensive line being such a question mark. But then also we talk offensively, look at the other side of the ball. I think the Titans have one of the best defensive lines in the league. I think they have the Indianapolis Colts beat there. But then again, if you're going to say that Indianapolis has such a stout offensive line, how much of a difference and how disruptive can this Titans defensive line be? Can they put the pressure on Matt Ryan? Because I think if they can, the Titans got him beat.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I listen to this text. So our buddy Indy Ben has weighed in.
Indy Ben. I was waiting for when we would hear
He
from
has
him.
weighed in on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The last time Matt Ryan had a top running game and an offensive line that protected him, he played like a top QB in the league. If nothing else, Ryan is a younger, stronger-armed version of 2020 Phillip Rivers, and even with a noodle-armed, Rivers and the Colts went 11-5. Titans have more question marks at this point than Indy, and there are concerns at O-line, wide receiver, QB, and if Henry can come back to carry the offense once again. With Indy, the biggest questions are at wide receiver and tight end. And if you could maybe throw in the head coach, as Reich has made some questionable in-game decisions. He also says, and you forget that Yannick Ngakoue and Stephon Gilmore are both quality acquisitions for Indy as well, which is another reason why national media is higher on them over Tennessee. That's two good points that they added them.
And I do wonder how much of a difference maker is Stephon Gilmore. I mean, he's a baller.
At this point, yeah.
At this point in his career, how much of a difference maker is he? But if you're going to talk about the razor-thin margins between the two, yeah, it's a fair point. But if Indy Ben is going to say that quarterback is a question mark for the Titans, I think you also have to say that quarterback is a question mark for Indianapolis as well. Yes, it's an upgrade over Carson Wentz, but this is Matt Ryan in a new offense, his first season with Indianapolis. So yes, I would call that a question mark as well. I think when it comes down to it, both of these teams have a ton of question marks surrounding them. You know, and he mentions head coach. If you're giving me Frank Reich or Mike Vrabel, I'm taking Vrabel all day long.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Ryan's also 37 years old. The last time that he had those things, the run game, the offensive line, he was like 33, 34.
Right.
That's a big difference in the NFL.
And Indy Ben saying that, you know, Matt Ryan's a younger, stronger-armed version of Phillip Rivers. Well, it's really not much to say that he was younger than Phillip Rivers. No respect to Phillip Rivers, but he was old. when he was playing for the Indianapolis Colts. He was on the
He had a
end
noodle
of
arm.
his career. He had a noodle arm. I mean, Matt Ryan isn't some sort of, spring chicken, so to say. So what does the outlook of the AFC South look like? And what were some of our biggest takeaways from Titans training camp earlier this week? Teron Davenport joins us coming up next for the TD Power Hour. We'll talk to TD about his thoughts throughout the week and throughout the rest of the AFC South. But before we get to that, I want to let you know that your Nashville Best Deal of the Week this week is Nashville B-Cycle. Nashville B-Cycle has been Music City's station-based bike share system since 2013. You can get half off a monthly pass to Nashville B-Cycle, where you can enjoy unlimited 60-minute rides for 30 days now at thegamenashville.com/deals.
You watch the game.
And the score! Philip Forsberg from the left circle!
We talk the game.
You can't just pick up one guy and be competitive in the playoffs.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Races, concerts, and one big party. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix returns to Nashville August 5th through 7th. For 3 days, the streets of downtown Nashville will come alive with the sounds of race cars, music, and cheering fans. 3-day tickets are on sale starting as low as $129. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is a weekend full of entertainment that you don't want to miss. And tickets are going fast. Visit MusicCityGP.com to buy yours today.
What if you could be debt-free in 3 weeks? Hey, Willie Donick here. My friends at Loan Pronto are helping people do it every day. It's Loan Pronto's debt consolidation home refi, wiping out tens of thousands in credit card debt. Listen, your home's value is way up. You can refinance now, take money out to pay off all your credit cards, eliminate PMI charges, pay off personal loans, or other high-interest debt. One local couple had over $50,000 in credit card debt. Loan Pronto did a debt consolidation refi. And even though their mortgage rate went up a tad, they cut their monthly payments by $900. Why pay 20% interest when you can consolidate it to one low payment with a mortgage APR in the threes? Homeowners who do it save an average of $800 a month. Do it now and even skip your next house payment altogether. That's what I call financial freedom. Call Loan Pronto now. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Here's where the Malik hype is going to become a factor, what he does in the preseason. Now, he'll be going up against second and third stringers because nobody plays their starters, and the Titans have 2 joint scrimmages. Arizona, they'll scrimmage, and they won't play the starters because they would never play the starters in the last game anyways. They usually don't play the backup quarterback in that last preseason game either, which means you're going to get a lot of Malik. What's crazy about the preseason is if I were to tell you Tannehill's not going to take a meaningful snap, like that would normally be bad for people watching the preseason. But it's actually going to be good for people watching the preseason because we're going to want to see Malik. And if Malik goes off in the preseason, then when Tannehill throws interceptions, people will be like, we want Malik. We want Malik. But if Malik looks like he doesn't have a clue out there, people are not going to be clamoring for Logan Woods.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service for your life in the Health and Medical Game Studios. And you can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Teron Davenport is in the house for the TD Power Hour. Happy to see you, TD. How we doing?
Excellent. How are you guys?
Doing well. Well, first and foremost, TD, let's get into it. Titans had OTAs, the first OTAs of the season, open to the media. First question for you, TD. Derrick Henry, Harold Landry, Danico Autry, Nate Davis, Jeff Swaim, just a few of the players who weren't present at practice on Tuesday. Your thoughts? Why weren't they there? Are you okay with them not being there?
In a perfect world, they would be there, right? And you look at a lot of the things that have been pointed to about doing everything it takes, right? And just keeping the momentum going in the right direction, and that is one way. I feel as though if Mike Vrabel is okay with it, then we all should be okay with it. That's my thought process.
Is he okay with it?
Yeah, I was about to say, do you
and
think
that's why I said if. That is why I said if, because that's something he's kind of mastered the art of not saying something but saying something.
Saying a lot.
You know what I mean?
Without saying a lot?
Exactly, because he hasn't come out literally and said, hey, he's not happy that guys aren't there. But I still feel you do work with who is there, and whoever isn't, you got to place the charge on them to, hey, look, you better be doing what you have to do to keep everything going the right direction. So I don't think it takes 100% attendance, you know what I mean, in order to win a championship. I'm curious about that, like if there could be a survey or something, like some research to be done okay, the last 5 Super Bowl winners, did they have 100% attendance? Because if I remember, I know the 2017 Eagles, they didn't have everybody in attendance. But long story short, you would like to see it, but I don't think it's a huge detriment to them trying to win the Super Bowl.
And I look at it like it's not the physical side of things. It's not the staying in shape side of things. I'm not worried about Derrick Henry staying in shape and coming back at the end of July for training camp and being in shape. Or Jeffrey Simmons or whoever it might be. I'm not worried about that. I think, in my opinion, the real reason why it just kind of makes me a little bit frustrated is more so the leadership side of things, the culture side of things, because that's what Mike Vrabel and that entire organization loves to tout is we have very strong culture. It's Titans culture. But can it be Titans culture when you don't have that whole team out there?
I still think it can be Titans culture when you don't have that whole team out there, because I think they're at a point where it's almost like treating someone like a grown person, right? To where, okay, you know what? I don't have to make sure that you're at this – I don't have to give you a full itinerary for the day. But I expect you to follow that itinerary, and I'm going to allow you to have some wiggle room where you need that wiggle room. And I think that's kind of what's going on here. Obviously, the collective bargaining agreement and the things in place to make sure that, you know, what's voluntary is voluntary and what's involuntary is mandatory. I think that's in play, too. I think it's really just a matter of just, all right, look, man, we would rather you be here. If you can't be here, I'm telling you right now, everything that has to be done to be on the same page, you better be on the same page when it's voluntary and when it's mandatory.
And you're kind of looking around the league. Aaron Donald wasn't at Rams OTAs. Kyler Murray was not at Cardinals OTAs. Several players around the league not at OTAs, but those players are working through new contracts. And I get that. If you're working through a new contract, if you want a new contract.
Aaron Rodgers is
He
just got one.
But that's Aaron Rodgers, and he feels like he's entitled to certain things that other people aren't. That's Aaron Rodgers. They're working through new contracts. And I believe it was a Pro Football Talk article that said, I don't know what it was, that said, you know, there's 2 reasons why you might not be at OTAs. 1, you're working through a new contract. I get it. 2, you're sending a message. Now, while I don't necessarily 100% agree with those being the only 2 reasons why you don't show up for OTAs, you know, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Do you think that could be the case for one, if not several, of the players that weren't there on Tuesday, working through a new contract or sending a message?
It could, because not coming to OTAs is kind of like the new way of holding out. So it could. Fortunately, we haven't seen Titans name and logo and representation scrubbed from any Instagram accounts or Twitter accounts. So that's a good thing for
we're free from one social media warrior.
Yeah. So I think it could be the case for some, but end of the day, you know what makes money? Going out there and performing. So and that's what's going to help this team win. So I think that's what you have to look at.
I would love to know what, and I assume I know what it is, and obviously it was a different time, but Vrabel's track record when Vrabel was a player, OTAs were different. It was you had 2-a-days and stuff like that, but my assumption is he was there, and Brady and those guys, and that was the culture what they set. And I think that with the new CBA and practice time, I do think that is hard for some coaches that played in that different era to accept, because they remember the old days and having to do it that way.
It's a different mindset, a different approach, and there were a different way of doing things. I mean, a perfect example, you mentioned 2-a-days, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you go back 20 years to, when there were 2-a-days, and you were to say, hey, you could win a championship without practicing twice a day, and they would have looked at not being crazy in pads for X amount of practice, only being in pads for 13 practice, whatever it is. They'll say, man, you crazy. How you think I'm going to be ready for the season?
Right.
But that's what we're doing right now. So just the same, you could go back to that Vrabel era, and be like, hey, can you win without all guys there at voluntary OTAs? No way, you can't. It's just things changed.
Right. It's a different league.
Right.
And,
and even a different approach, a different mindset,
sure.
Right? Like my daughter, funny thing, my daughter, I told her how, if I didn't make it onto the city bus, sometimes I had to walk to school. And that was a heck of a walk. And sometimes in the rain, sometimes in the snow. And she was like, man, are you crazy? The mindset, the mentality has changed.
Yep.
It's different.
Yep.
And that's just where we are now.
And Chase brings up a good point with Mike Vrabel because, back in their day, it was the 2-a-days. It was 110 degrees outside. You're wearing pads, whatever that might be. But taking away 2-a-days was something that was standard across the league. I think my thing with voluntary OTAs is it's voluntary. I mean, you can go if you want. You don't have to if you don't want. But it's different for every team across the league. And in talking about Mike Vrabel, their approach on those Super Bowl winning Patriot teams was the players push each other. They're in the weight room saying, oh, you've been in here since 7, I've been in here since 6. Oh, you got 2 hours of treatment, I got 2.5 hours of treatment. Mm-hmm. So I think I look at it like, the 2-a-day practices, that was a change across the league. That was a standard change. But with the voluntary OTAs, there could be different teams that interpret that differently. And in the Vrabel days, it was being there together in the weight room, in the locker room, on the field together that I think is different. That it's the teeny tiny little minute changes or advantages or disadvantages that each team could have that now exist with voluntary workouts. So I think that in a very long-winded way of saying, I mean, there could be Indianapolis Colts, for example. All of their players could be at voluntary OTAs because that's what they chose to do. I'm not saying that that's what did happen, but is that the tiniest edge that other teams could get on the Tennessee Titans? And that's another disadvantage that the Titans might have. I know it's May, but it's a disadvantage nonetheless.
I still struggle to find that to fully be a disadvantage, though, because I feel like as if, and again, we're talking about Derrick Henry, we're talking about Jeffrey Simmons, like we're talking about. Would it be better for Zach Cunningham to be there? Yeah, probably, because he's still ingratiating himself into the locker room, and there's still team building.
I keep having to remind myself he's a Titan.
Yeah, see? So
fair point.
But when we're talking about Jeffrey Simmons, we're talking about Derrick Henry, I'm sorry, I don't have any doubt whatsoever that they're not going to be in shape and ready to go. But more importantly, I have zero doubt whatsoever that Jeffrey Simmons, Derrick Henry, these guys aren't going to be ready to drive the culture and the team first and work first attitude that's with them. Why? Because I saw it firsthand, all the time, these guys. You talk about Jeffrey Simmons and how he works in practice, running after every screen and running down, plays down the field. And Derrick Henry going on the sand pit instead of standing on the sideline during special team. Like, to me, those are advantages. And there was a saying that Kobe Bryant had one time, and I love the saying because he talked about how he would, some guys, they'll get up at 9 o'clock, right, and they'll go work out at 10. They work out from 10 to 11. They take a break, rejuvenate. They go back again, work out at 2 o'clock to 3. Come back, take a break, eat, rejuvenate, have dinner, and then work out from 5 to 6, and then their day's done. But Kobe, what he would do would be up at 3 in the morning, work from 4 to 5, chill for a second, get another one, 7 to 8, chill for a second, and then go and work out again. And then instead of taking a break after dinner or stopping the day, he'll go back and work again. He said by the time we got to training camp or to whatever period, I had already done so much more work than them. It didn't matter what I did in training camp.
Right.
I think that same approach could be taken to Derrick Henry. I would imagine to Jeffrey Simmons as well.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. TD hanging out with us. And TD, I want to get your thoughts on this new pass-catching core of the Titans, what you saw from them at OTAs, at rookie minicamp, and how you see their roles filling in once the season kicks off against the New York Giants. TD hanging out with us. Teron Davenport for the TD Power Hour. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe in for Jared Stillman. We're live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Ample Collision Centers and the Nashville Superspeedway
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you. Despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Hey, what's going on? Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, is it true that according to the American Dental Association, roughly 80% of people in the U.S. have some form of gum disease?
That's right, but our non-surgical periodontal therapy is painless and effective in keeping your mouth healthy. And the mouth is the window to the health of the rest of the body.
I know you have some different things that you offer. What else can you tell us?
Well, first, who doesn't want whiter teeth? Our new Zoom LED whitening system is less sensitive, and you get more than 5 shades of whitening. And we just upgraded both our lasers to kill bacteria during your cleaning.
What about taking care of cold sores some people may have, which can become painful? Can lasers help with that too?
Yes, the gentle laser setting will kill the virus in your cold sores all naturally while reducing the healing time by half. And our special soft tissue wand uses warm, light laser therapy to give instant relief to severe TMJ pain. Our approach to holistic dentistry is unique.
Give Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine a call today at 615-373-4488 or visit kellyerice.com. You'll certainly be glad you did.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the next generation of drivers, where titanium ends and the carbon age begins. Introducing the new Stealth Carbon Wood driver from TaylorMade, with 60 layers of carbon twist-based technology designed for better energy transfer and faster ball speeds. Come into Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops is home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, or shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Introducing the first Nashville location of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Midtown. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ with fun, effective, and empowering group boxing circuit workouts. Become a founding member today. Stop by the brand new studio in Midtown at 2041 Broadway, Suite C, or call 629-206-9092 to join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McCabe, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Caroline Fenton joined by Chase McCabe and Teron Davenport here in the house for the TD Power Hour. Now, TD, first question for you. We're talking Titans OTAs. Now, Treylon Burks has really been the biggest mystery in this offseason ever since rookie camp. He was out day one of rookie camp, came back, was able to finish day two of rookie camp, and then in OTAs on Tuesday, he was kind of on and off the field. He did a few reps, did a few drills with the wide receivers, would go off the field, do whatever it was. They would come back and would be on and would be off. First question for you, are you concerned about Treylon Burks?
I don't know if concerned is the right word as much as intrigued, like curious. I want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy, right? You had what, 7, 8 draft picks?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is struggling,
Mm-hmm.
somewhat, right? Well, I'll say this: one of them is causing reasons for question.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to say the man's struggling, but
The first round draft pick.
The first round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last one that you want to be like, okay,
especially
is he
after
ready?
the last few years.
Right. Now, I'll say this, and it's just unfortunate for Treylon Burks, but the relationship is always going to be there. The correlation is always going to be there. In this case, it kind of works in his favor. When A.J. Brown got to rookie minicamp, I remember he was like 240, 245.
Thick.
I pulled him aside and said, bro, you got to lose some of that, man. Like, you're not setting off the line of scrimmage. Like, you got to lose some of that. And also, if I'm not mistaken, he missed time early because of hamstring.
Yep, he did. You're right.
That situation turned out okay, right? So I think, even if you look at Nate Davis, right, he was out for a period of time. I remember seeing him on the sideline, and I was like, yo, this dude, like, he's really ready. He looks like he's ready to faint. And sure enough, the trainers a couple minutes later came over and took him inside. He turned out okay. I say all that to say, when you look at Treylon Burks, obviously you want him out there like looking as fast as possible and quick as possible and catching everything, and you're just like, wow, that's a dude. Right now, that's not where we are. I'm curious why we're not.
Sure.
I'm not concerned why we're not. I'm curious why we're not. I understand that there's time. We can't – if he's not someone that you're looking at, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a dude. By training camp, yeah, there's a serious issue because he has to hit training camp running. Ideally, he would be off and running right now, but hopefully for his sake, whatever it is that he's working through, he could work through that and not have to work through that training camp because once you hit there, like, things have to raise to another level. So I would like to see more. Like, he's not as quick as he does look a bit sluggish and lethargic at times, but that's something that is a work in progress, in my opinion.
I want to ask you this, TD, because these guys go through when their college season is done, which we know the college season ends before the NFL, and for a lot of these guys, they, unless they're in the playoff, they're not worrying about a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately turn their attention to training for the draft.
Yeah, there's a Yep.
And that's where I'm going with that. There is a big difference in training for the combine and pro days and all of that than there is in training for a season.
Yeah.
How much does that factor in setting some of these guys back, even though they're ready for the drills that they have to run at the combine and in pro day, but they're still not in quote-unquote football shape like they need to be.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's big. Combine-specific training is so much different from football training, whereas you're working on – I mean, how many times – when is the next time Treylon Burks or Reggie Robertson are going to get down in a two-point stance and sprint out of that? Probably never.
Never. Mm-hmm.
But guess what they were doing only up until the combine? Two-point stance,
40s.
sprinting, running 40s. So, yeah, there is a difference there. I still think – I'm not going to say it's unacceptable, but it's disappointing for there to be issues. Now, granted, I'm going to be frank with this. I was not there on Tuesday to see. So I can't say where it is now. I just could go back to what I saw in rookie minicamp the first day and the second day. It's disappointing that he didn't make it through that first day. If I was someone who had a horse in the race, I would be disappointed. But there's also understanding and context to be put to that, and I think that is something. But then again, there's 7 or 8 other guys who were going through the same training and had to go through the same transition. Now, I wonder, is the paradigm different? Like, are we looking at them through a different lens than we're looking at Burks? I don't know.
But they're also not the ones often on the field, like needing an inhaler or getting an ice pack after rookie minicamp, because I understand that there might be a gap there between college training and your first NFL practice. I understand that the bar just got raised a whole heck of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not the only one who's going through that.
Right.
But he's the only one that
has the struggle.
That's visibly struggling.
Yeah. And that is the issue. That is the issue. Like, we can't sugarcoat it. That is the issue.
Sure.
The only one that has shown signs of disappointment, shown signs of intrigue, is your top pick.
Mm-hmm.
That is
your top pick that has a really big role to fill.
Right. So this is where you really have to rely on your Robert Woods. You have to rely on your Mason Kinseys. And, I say that name and people are frowning. Like, why did – listen, Mason Kinsey is someone I think just –
I'm intrigued, man.
You have to understand the work ethic that Mason Kinsey has is tremendous, tremendous. I don't remember a single practice where I didn't see him after practice. And I'm talking about rookie minicamp too, on the jugs machine or doing something after. That type of thing is going to wear off on a younger player. That is an example, right? The desperation level, the having your ribs showing level of desperation.
There it is.
Right? That's how hungry he is. That's going to rub off on a younger guy like Burks.
And you mentioned Robert Woods, and that's another area that I want to look at. I was listening to Darren Donick and Chase yesterday, and D-Mace was saying, hey, don't count on Robert Woods to be ready week 1. Yeah, he was out at practice, and he was running around. He was doing drills with his bionic knee on, but you don't have DBs on your tail, and you're not playing week in and week out. You don't have the laborious NFL schedule week in and week out on that knee as a 30-year-old wide receiver. Are you concerned about Robert Woods?
No, I'm not, honestly. Because, you don't have that right now. But the other thing is you're not just taking the guy that you're seeing right now, pausing him, and then playing him when you're going to have guys going against him. Mm-hmm. He's going to have that time to progress and continue to heal and rehab. So he's working up to that point to where he'll be. I think he does play week 1. Now, is he going to be Robert Woods, the 90-plus reception guy that we're accustomed to seeing? Probably not week 1, but eventually I think you're going to get that guy, but you're still going to get something good, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't think it's crazy outside of the realm of possibility that either Treylon Burks or perhaps Robert Woods, one of them, may not be ready week 1. What's the Titans' plan from there? Crisis mode.
NWI.
Touch your left shoulder, your right shoulder, your belly button, and then your forehead, and point to the sky. Right, you form a cross. And pray. Now, I think it'll be just a steady dose of Derrick Henry, really. But I think they really feel like those guys will be ready. A thing to look at, honestly, Will Fuller is just kind of like sitting out there.
Mm-hmm.
You're
convincing me more and more on that.
That's a good insurance clause. And the thing I like about that is Tim Kelly will be there. So obviously the scheme won't be the same. But Tim Kelly will be there, like, play X. He could be like, Will, this is just like when you used to run Z-Sail or something like that. You know what I mean? So that way you have that translation as far as the terminology is concerned and concept. So he could come in and be a guy to help out.
Well, and I still think there's going to be some names available, cuts or, what have you that they can look at. But you've convinced me more and more. But Real quick, the guy that I am probably the most curious about outside of Treylon Burks right now is what they have in Des Fitzpatrick. You know, have they seen what they have in Des Fitzpatrick, or has he had a good offseason? Did he learn from last year, being on the practice squad, and then, you know, the limited game action that he got? Because I feel like as a 4th-round pick, he's somebody that if he's on the team, they got to get something out of him.
Yeah, they're going to have to get something out of him. I think really the main thing, the sense of urgency, that's the area where he had to get better, and it seemed like he did get better there. So that's another one. Like I said, I wasn't there Tuesday, so I can't really tell you. I would imagine he has gotten better. I think mindset-wise, though, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, I love what he said about A.J. Brown. You know, he was like, hey, listen, you know, I was shocked, but the first thing I thought of was, hey, this is my opportunity.
Yep.
And that's it right there. That's how you have to approach.
Time to eat.
You know, it's time to eat, man. My ribs, I got to put stuff around my ribs. They can't keep showing.
Yep.
TD mentions Will Fuller. I have a thought on that. We'll get into that next. Plus, TD's thoughts on the Titans offseason as a whole and kind of how they compare to the rest of the AFC South. When I get into that with TD coming up next. Plus, get your questions in for TD. If you've got a Titans question, TD is going to hit on it. We'll get to that later this hour. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe in for Jared Stillman. Teron Davenport for the TD Power Hour. This is Stillman & Company, and we are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Want the latest on the Predators from the people that cover them?
Heck of a year so far for the Predators. They've been so much fun to watch.
Join Robbie Stanley for Preds Insiders every Monday at 6.
I feel probably as good about this group of 6 on D.
Presented by Dr. Kelly Rice on Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Proud to announce that they have won the Top Gun Award for the best Pella sales organization in the U.S. They have the best culture, best customer satisfaction, and best growth in the business. To celebrate, Pella is offering their amazingly affordable products at 0% financing with no payments for 12 months. Do you need new doors or windows? I suggest you shop with Nashville's Pella experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
This week only, the Electronic Express Memorial Day sale is here. Celebrate with brands like Charbroil, Yeti, Samsung, LG, Dyson, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. Outdoor living, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com with free express delivery. Summer savings at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Spring is in the air, and that means all kinds of fun in the sun is just around the corner. But if you're feeling low energy, if you've put on weight and just aren't getting the gains from your workouts, if you aren't sleeping well and your libido isn't what it used to be, maybe you aren't looking forward so much to sunny days and shirtless weather. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if this sounds like you, we might very well have the answer, because you may very well be suffering from low testosterone. And that, my friend, is something that can be effectively treated to get you back to the guy you used to be. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has treated thousands of men for low T. Our treatment programs are highly effective with most men seeing results in just a few weeks. Assuming you're like most guys, you'll sleep better, have better workouts, have higher energy, and your sex life might just improve as well. So give us a call. Just $99 gets you a PSA and T test and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090. Or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Stay cool this summer with AC Pro Refrigerant and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Right now, get a $15 O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card after mail-in rebate, plus earn double O Rewards points with the purchase of select AC Pro Refrigerant products. Beat the heat before you hit the road with AC Pro Refrigerant at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered. There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
What's happening in Nashville? This is Scott Van Pelt. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ESPN 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and Teron Davenport in the house for the TD Power Hour. Now, TD, before the break, we were talking about a little bit of insurance that the Titans could give themselves in this pass-catching core. You mentioned Will Fuller. I had a thought on that because what's on the Titans' weight room, what's on the wall? Your best ability is your availability. And I look at Will Fuller, and he has yet to play a full season in the NFL. His first season, he played 14 games, 10 games, 7, 11 games the next 2 years. Last year, he played just 2 games. I understand if the Titans do acquire Will Fuller, it'll probably be more of an insurance piece, a veteran piece to add to this core. I wouldn't be interested in anything more than that. Anything like any sort of big time deal, any sort of long-term deal. Because I look at Will Fuller's availability and it's not so great. And this wide receiver core, this team in general, has had a problem with injuries, players in and out of the lineup. And I wouldn't want to see the Titans tie themselves up with too much more of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the acquisition, like if they sign him, it wouldn't be. There's a reason why he's still on the market. He's a very talented player. There's a reason why he's still on the market. And yes, while the best ability is availability, the one thing that it doesn't say on the wall is the only ability is availability. So, yes, it's the best, but there's other things that are good. And speed is one of them, and that's what Will Fuller brings in spades. It would be a low-cost, potentially high-reward deal. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think you look at the 9.5 million that's going to come up after June 1st. You could put 2.5 to 3 million. I would imagine he was signed for that at this point. So that's a reasonable deal. I think you're right. The perspective, the what you're asking for out of him is very important because you can't have him. You're not going to be like, Will, I need you to come in and lead my receiver group.
It's not going to happen.
I need you to come in and help out. Look, we're going to ask you to do this, this, and this. That's it.
I think you make a really interesting point, too, when you talk about the cap because I guess technically speaking, Julio Jones hasn't been released yet. He's that post-June 1. So that's going to free up a lot of, not a lot, but a good amount of cap space where you could go make a move like that or some other moves if John wants to do that.
Right, exactly. And that will free up some. At this point, I wouldn't expect any move that would be like earth-breaking. You know what I mean? So
I almost don't want that.
Yeah, most of the time,
I don't need a SportsCenter headline.
Right, with the exception of the Julio Jones deal last year, most of the time, by this point in the offseason, like it's set, right? It's set. And you saw the Julio Jones, you saw the Jadeveon Clowney deal. Those were deals that happened late, but those were unique situations. For the most part, it's set.
When we talk about potential moves the Titans could make in the offseason, looking back at the moves that the Titans did make in the offseason, what grade would you give the Titans for their offseason changes, acquisitions, trades, so on and so forth?
I would probably say C. Because there's still question marks.
Yeah.
Left guard, right tackle, replacing A.J. Brown, like those are question marks. They're definite question marks. So I would say C. I do like what they did as far as making sure Ben Jones, Harold Landry came back. I like the McCreary pick. Very underrated pick in my mind. I remember I posted on Twitter, like I posted his name and Elam out of Florida as guys the Titans should look at, and people went crazy. Like, oh, you're stupid. How could you? Well, you got a starting left corner that hasn't played a complete season in quite some time.
Mhm.
You got a starting right corner that has had some injury things also.
The night of the draft, I asked a friend of mine who's a big Auburn fan, what do you think about the pick? And of course, you got to take it with a grain of salt, Auburn pick, but he said
Right.
the most underrated pick of that round of the draft. He said he loved Roger McCreary.
Some people had a first-round grade on him. In fact, most had a first-round grade until the 29-inch arms thing came out. But guess what? You see when you're watching film, he had the 29-inch arms when he was going against, Jamison Williams and Henry Ruggs and all these other dudes. So Jamar Chase. So I'm just saying that was a very underrated acquisition in my mind. I think that's gonna help. But overall, yeah, I would say it was about average because the question marks, 2 major question marks you had going into the season, off season, you're coming out the off season with them.
You still have them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have another one now because it's like, well, I can't count on play action, 5-yard pass going 70 because 11's not there anymore. Who could provide that? But you look at Austin Hooper, bringing him in, that was clearly an upgrade at tight end. You have to like that.
Chig.
Chig, Okonkwo. Yeah.
I'm excited about Chig.
I'm very excited.
I'm not expecting my excitement is tempered because I'm not expecting instant results from him.
Because you don't need it. You have Jeff Swaim.
I think Jeff
Swaim is solid.
Well, it's just also the tight end position, especially with him, because they're going to ask him to do so much.
Yeah.
He is going to play H-back. He's going to play inline. He's going to be flex. He's going to line up out wide. They're going to ask him to do a whole lot. So it's going to be tough for him to have that instant impact, even though he's such a good player.
So the Titans, in your opinion, average offseason. And I think that at least the A.J. Brown move is not a move that makes the Titans better in 2022. But all of that considered, what do you think are fair expectations for Titans fans this year?
I think 10-7, 11-6 is fair. I think that's a fair.
It's a solid season.
It's a fair expectation to win the AFC South. You look at this coaching staff. The one thing that I admire about the coaching staff, led by Mike Vrabel, is whenever you count them out, they always seem to rise to the occasion. They always seem.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't think I could do this? Hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm going to be right back. And they go do it. So I think just because of that, 10-7, 11-6 is reasonable. I know it's a tough schedule as far as some of the teams that they'll play. I believe it's 24th overall in ranking, so it's not that tough. But you look at the AFC South, it's a very winnable division. Now, I know everybody's saying, hey, the Colts, they should raise the flag now. I don't think so. There are question marks about the Colts just as much as there are. That offensive line is not sound, right?
Nope.
Left guard, or left tackle, rather, what are they doing there, right? And
sure.
There's a lot of receiver-wise, outside of Michael Pittman Jr., who's, what are you doing there?
Okay, so that kind of leads me into the question I was going to ask you. You take their offensive group, Matt Ryan, you mentioned Pittman, Parrish Campbell is in there.
If he's healthy.
If he's healthy. Jonathan Taylor at running back. Mo Alley Cox, I guess, is their starting tight end.
Jelani Woods.
Yeah. You like that group compared to Tannehill, a rookie, Traylon Burks, Robert Woods. We mentioned Chig, Austin Hooper.
That's going to be the key. Matter of fact, I might draft Austin Hooper in fantasy. I'm not even going to lie to you.
I think there's a ton of potential there.
Hey, listen, you're talking about a 23% target share that's up for grabs.
Yeah.
Up for grabs. And a quarterback like Tannehill likes safer throws, likes to work in the middle of the field.
Loves the tight end.
Where does the tight end go? In the middle of the field. So, yeah, to answer your question, I take the Titans core. I take that over the Colts. Defense.
I'd lean the Titans, especially
it's close.
That front seven.
It's close because remember they acquired Yannick Ngakoue.
They did,
but you got Big Jeff, crawfish eating food. Bud Dupree.
You want to talk about hungry?
Yeah,
and that's a 300-pound man. But you want to talk about hungry?
He tears
because he knows what's at
Jeff
the end of the line this year.
Jeff in a contract year, the Jeff that I don't want to deal with.
He's got the bag on his mind. He's going to go after it. And he should. He deserves it. He's already earned it.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So you look at that, but Colts got Ngakoue. Rodney McLeod would be a solid pickup.
They added Gilmore.
As a safety, added Gilmore.
How much of a difference maker do you think Stephon Gilmore is?
I don't think he's a huge difference maker. Because if he was, I would imagine Carolina would have retained him.
Mm-hmm.
But still the presence. I think that's going to be good for their secondary. I think the Titans. It's a toss-up because I think Byard and Hooker are pretty good difference maker safety-wise. Julian Blackmon, I love that kid.
Chase McCabe and Teron Davenport in the house for the TD Power Hour. You're listening to Stillman & Company. We're live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman & Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When it comes to your credit card, Discover believes in having real people available 24/7 to help answer your questions. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus. All day long, isolated to scattered showers and storms possible in our forecast. A low-end severe weather threat possible, damaging wind being the biggest threat we have to watch out for. Highs today will be in the middle to upper 70s.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Trying to find a new home right now is next to impossible. Very little inventory, prices are crazy high, rates are moving up. Here's a better idea. Let my friends at Loan Pronto refinance your current home, turn all that equity you have into cash, and totally transform your house. A new kitchen, new bathroom, a pool. Think about it. Your home value is up. Instead of wasting all that on an overpriced new house, convert that equity into cash for a home makeover. One local couple did it and got $200,000 out. They added new hardwoods, an outdoor living space, a swimming pool with spa and all new cabinets and appliances, plus a home office. Now they have their dream home, and they never had to move. Call Loan Pronto. Ask about their home improvement refi. Give your home a total makeover, and do it now. You can even skip your next house payment in the process. Call now, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval.
Golfers, tee it up this year at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Callaway. Featuring the new Rogue ST drivers, Callaway's most stable driver ever, with tungsten speed cartridge, jailbreak speed frame, and AI flash face. Engineered for max speed and forgiveness. 4 different models to fit every golfer's needs. Think speed? Go Rogue. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit for the new Rogue ST drivers today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Your Nashville's best deal of the week is Nashville B-Cycle, Music City's station-based bike share system since 2013. With over 177 pedal assist electric bikes available from over 20 stations, from Sylvan Park to East Nashville and everywhere in between. Nashville B-Cycle is a fun and sustainable way to get around. And now get half off a monthly pass where you can enjoy unlimited 60-minute rides for 30 days. Get yours at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Hey Nashville, it's Chase McCabe, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year,
Joe Rexrode.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman & Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 5:35 p.m. on ESPN 94.9 as the Sounds face the Toledo Mud Hens, the AAA affiliate of the Detroit Tigers. Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 presented by 312 Pizza, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Spirited Hive. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and Teron Davenport in the house for the TD Power Hour. Let's get to the questions for TD because the people got the questions and TD is here to deliver. But first and foremost, Devin from Dover texts in and says, how much of an impact do you think Kyle Phillips will make this year?
We didn't talk about him.
We haven't talked about him, and I don't think we've talked about him enough.
It's going to be the Kyle Phillips and Mason Kinsey battle is going to be one to watch. But I think he can have a major impact. He's very much like Adam Humphries or Cooper Kupp in that frame. He obviously watches a lot of Cole Beasley and Keenan Allen. I love the way he tempos his routes. I think on third downs he could be a very serious contributor in that way as a slot guy, consistent catcher. I could see him having 30 to 40 receptions with 15 to 20 of them being first downs. So yeah, I think he could be a big contributor.
I'll tell you this. I was at an event recently, and a very important person in the Titans organization told me that they're excited about Kyle Phillips, and that was Amy Adams-Strunk.
Nice.
So
nice.
when the owner is excited, I think you should get excited.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely should get excited for that because that lets you know that that owner's being fed some things to make her excited.
Matt from DC on our text line says, unlike last year, these guys need to play in the preseason. We saw what happened against the Cardinals. Do you agree or disagree with that?
You know what? I think so. They do need to play in the preseason. I think you need to get those live reps. So I'll agree with them.
I mean, at least one game because the league and the players, they finally agreed, okay, 4's too many. They knocked it down to 3. You're going to have the extra week in between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season. I do believe that, especially these young guys, which you're going to see a lot of Malik Willis and a lot of that, but I want to see some of the veterans out there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do think that hurt them last year.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you got to look at, this offensive line is in a little bit of a different situation, right? Because, it's not the same guys that you've seen over and over again. You know what I mean? There's going to be 2 new pieces in there.
Go ahead.
Ron texts into the text line and says, full name driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says if last year was a go-for-it season for the Titans, then why wouldn't this year be a go-for-it season as well?
It's a good question. I think it's a different situation, right? You're not dealing with, I don't want to say a full clip, but it's a different collection of guys, right, than last season. So I'm not going to say it's a restart type of season, but it's just different because some of your big time guys that were on the team aren't there anymore. Like, this is a different group. So that's what I would say to that.
We talk about the window all the time when it comes to the Titans. Super Bowl window being open versus closed. Is the Super Bowl window open this year?
I think it is. I mean, after seeing what the Bengals did, I don't think you could say the window is closed for most teams. The Giants, yeah. The Jets, okay.
The window's
the Panthers,
closed.
yeah. But I think, it's still open because you never know what could happen. And a gritty team like this that just finds a way, it wouldn't shock me.
Does Vrabel being the head coach make you feel more confident in that?
I do. I feel more confident in that with him being there. And even John Robinson as the GM.
Yeah.
I think, you have to look at what these guys have been able to do together, and just even Robinson himself. I mean, there hasn't been a losing season under him, right? As
correct.
GM, and this is a guy that came in that had the first round pick,
Yep.
number 1 pick
at
one point. So it's not like he came into a good situation. Mike Vrabel hasn't had a coach a team that won less than 9 games. I think they've earned trust and confidence.
Another texter texts into the to the text line and says, "Do the Titans make a mistake taking Treylon Burks with the 18th pick over an offensive lineman?"
No. Oh man, that's a tough question. I'm going to say no because I still think that there were guys that they could have gotten later. Burks, in my opinion, that was my 4th or 5th receiver. So I think they got a good one.
Another texter texts into the text line and says, outside of a Flacco type of Super Bowl run, do you think that Tannehill is done after the season with the team?
I don't. I think he'll be back next year unless he just completely crashes the plane. That's my thought.
Do you think he completely crashed the plane this past year?
No. He had 3 interceptions, but, man, there were a lot more. I mean, Tannehill wasn't on the field to allow that, 19-yard gain that set up the field goal. Like, that Tannehill didn't do that. That was a guy playing corner. He's not here anymore. That wasn't Tannehill's fault. So, yeah, it's easy to say 3 interceptions. You cost – no. You helped, absolutely.
Sure.
But collectively, that team lost that game.
So, for you, okay, on that, along those lines, for Malik Willis, do you want to see design packages for him? Or do you?
Yes.
Why?
Because the dynamic that brings, right? Because and that's the thing that's so underrated about Ryan Tannehill, though. He does make it 11-on-11 football. You talk to coordinators and defensive players that have to prepare to go against the Titans. Tannehill's wheels and his ability to run, like that makes it 11-on-11. But I think when you look at Willis, there are packages, and that just gives a team yet something else to prepare for, yet something else to expect. I think a goal line situation, I think Bill Poley and Jarrett had referenced, has said it would be great to see Willis, Haskins, and Henry on the field at the same time. I'm going to up that one more and say Okonkwo on the field also with Austin Hooper, but you line Okonkwo up out wide.
I'll one-up you. I'd love – and they won't do it because they'll be scared of what might happen, but I'd love to see them line up Tannehill at receiver.
Oh,
like,
gig 'em Aggies.
You do that. I mean, like I said, they're not going to do it because the last thing they want is Tannehill running across the middle and getting his head taken off.
Playing backyard football.
I don't want to.
But on the goal, but in the red zone where you're going for the end zone or something, then
maybe have them both have Tannehill motion.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like have Willis and shotgun and have Tannehill next to him. And motion out wide, like that might
it's a decoy,
kind of dress it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I know.
I know.
Maybe
Tannehill's a tough cookie.
We'll do it on Madden.
Tough cookie.
We'll do it on Madden. See how that works. But
with injury settings off.
With the injury settings off, I have one more that's non-Titans but we haven't talked about it. Kaepernick did try out for the Raiders. Are they the one, or is this just they tried him out?
You hope so. I always say I don't have a horse in the race, but I have a horse in that race. Because without Colin Kaepernick, there probably is no me.
Yeah.
He posted an article I did on my own website when I first came out. I taught myself how to build a website, and I did an article breaking down his first start on Thursday Night Football. He posted it on Facebook, and next thing I know, opportunities started to come my way. So I take Kaepernick stuff very personal. Because, like I said, without him, there probably isn't any me. I hope he does get the shot. I don't know that this will be. I honestly don't think so. I think the time is kind of past him.
Yeah.
Another non-Titans note, there's discussions about eliminating the Pro Bowl, changing the Pro Bowl. I mean, if I can be completely transparent here, I don't care if the Pro Bowl exists or not.
Me either.
I do like the idea that there is a non-Super Bowl or non-MVP identifier for really good players because you have so few Super Bowl MVPs or NFL MVPs or Super Bowl winners. I like that there's an identifier of like, okay, this offensive lineman is a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's a dude. But if they get rid of the Pro Bowl, I could care less.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't care less either. It's become so watered down. So, yeah. I like the skills competition, though. That's pretty
That's fun. Yeah. I like that. Last one for you, TD. One texter texts in and says, what is a fair expectation for a 28-year-old Derrick Henry coming off of an injury this season?
I would say 12 to 1,400 yards. 13
That's not a bad
You would
season.
take that all day long.
I'll take that.
That is enough of a presence to make the play-action game, too.
Yeah. Plus, what are you getting out of Hilliard and Haskins, too?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think
they're going to factor in.
Haskins, he can run.
I texted you as soon as they made that pick, and I said, I love this.
I remember you did. Yeah. And don't forget that Jordan Wilkins, you talk about tough runner. That dude, he's tough, man. Played for the Colts for a bit. I believe it was number 20 he wore, but, yeah, he was tough also.
Who we got on Talking with TD this week?
We have nobody.
Ooh,
I was in Bristol.
Solo?
Yeah, you know what? I did something I haven't done probably in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Took a Wednesday off with no talking with TD. So
Good for you, TD.
Yeah, I was in Bristol at the summit. So yeah.
Good for you. Hope
That's
you enjoyed
okay.
your time in Bristol.
You're allowed to do
Yep.
Bristol, Connecticut, one of the most underrated cities in America.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I'm totally joking. It's a place.
It's yeah.
It's a place. That is for
I'll
sure.
say it that way.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your time at the Mothership, TD. We appreciate you. We'll chat with you next week.
For sure. Appreciate you.
Teron Davenport, one of the best. We appreciate him so much. But coming up next, TD touched on something about the Titans offseason. I want to get into that. Plus, what does Bill Barnwell think about the Titans offseason compared to the rest of the league? Want to get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, in for Jared Stillman today. Stillman and Company on ESPN 1025 The Game.
You watch the game.
Line to left, coming on Newstrom. Base hit, Soundswind.
We talk the game.
But they knew he'd be really good. Well, if they don't make that move, they don't win those championships.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
So many times guests come in with pictures from Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook and are amazed that we have those rings in stock.
David Cooper, Vice President at Genesis Diamonds, talking about how Genesis stays on the cutting edge.
We pride ourselves of staying ahead of the curve of fashion and seeking what's new, what's hot all over the world, what's hot all over the internet, and having that in stock for you, where other stores are still chasing styles that were cool maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
Why settle for an outdated style or a stale design? Make the switch to Genesis and get the ring of her dreams with over 4,000 cutting-edge choices from the top bridal designers in the world.
We have the designer looks that you see everywhere in stock in a variety of metals, a variety of sizes and shapes, and a variety of budgets, so every customer can have exactly what they want.
Genesis Diamonds and pre-owned Rolexes.
We are so honored and proud that so many people have made the switch to Genesis Diamonds and not only told their friends about Genesis, but have brought their friends to Genesis.
Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Signs First is the official sign company for 1025 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Let's plan on having concessions over there.
Mike is remodeling the old family drive-in movie theater.
Go find Gavin. Tell him the sound team is here.
He'll need a new front-of-house cast and behind-the-scenes crew.
Hey, can we talk staffing real quick? I'm thinking at least 6 per shift.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN
1025 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Movers. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Been talking for way too long today. We are live. We're live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. We're streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry, Caroline Fenton, joined by Chase McCabe, and for Jared Stillman today. Now, we just had TD on for the TD Power Hour. I asked TD, what grade would you give the Tennessee Titans in their offseason acquisitions? Who came in, who went out, the draft, so on and so forth. He said he'd give the Titans a C. And really, I can't disagree with TD because I think the Titans made very strategic and smart moves, both in trades and in the draft. But a lot of those moves aren't necessarily things that make the Tennessee Titans better in 2022. Of course, you could look at the Titans potentially taking a step back at the wide receiver position, trading their best wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver they've had in quite some time. That doesn't make you better this year. Does it make you better in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Probably. Getting younger, getting less injured, and replacing that wide receiver with another talented wide receiver. What can Treylon Burks do in 2022? That is yet to be known. Again, Treylon Burks, I think, the biggest mystery in this offseason. But Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com put out an article about ranking the best to worst off seasons in the NFL. And he puts out the second half. So the worst off seasons in the NFL, put those out first. Worst offseason, he puts the Seattle Seahawks, which I can't disagree.
Yeah, no.
Tough scene for the
right.
Seahawks. Yeah, replacing Russell
tough
Wilson
scene.
with Drew Lock. Not great, Bob. Not great. But the Tennessee Titans are listed at 20 on Bill Barnwell's list of best to worst NFL offseason. So the 20th best, 12th worst offseason in the NFL, wherever you want to put it. So less than half of the NFL offseasons. Bill Barnwell puts what went right, what went wrong, and what they could have done differently. Now, I agree with one thing that Bill Barnwell says, and that's what went right. He mentions signing Harold Landry to a big-time deal. He mentions Bud Dupree back. He mentions cutting Julio Jones, how that was a good thing both for the cap and for the team in general. I can't disagree. While I think signing Harold Landry doesn't necessarily make the Titans better, he's been on the Tennessee Titans. I think the alternative of not signing Harold Landry is much worse than it is better that the Titans signed Harold Landry, if you know what I mean. I don't want the alternative of the Titans not signing Harold Landry, looking to find a new piece in that defensive line. Harold Landry is a constant in this defensive line. It was a force that completely changed the course of the Titans season last year. I agree. That was a good thing that the Titans did in the offseason. Doesn't make them better, but definitely doesn't make them worse. And you look at Julio Jones as well, creating cap space, and also just Julio Jones not contributing like he was brought in here to do. So I would agree with what the Titans did right this offseason. And also he mentions Malik Willis. I think we can all agree that was a good bring in for the Titans.
Especially where they got him.
Where they got him, what they want to use him for. I think it's the perfect situation for the Titans. Creating a quarterback competition, essentially a bargain pick. A third-round pick with first-round hype, a project that they can work on, and a project that they have time to work on. They've afforded themselves that with Ryan Tannehill. Great. I think I agree. With what I disagree with is where the Titans went wrong. Bill Barnwell mentions where the Titans went wrong was not signing A.J. Brown in the offseason. And I think that if you're looking at it from a national perspective, you may only look at the A.J. Brown deal and the A.J. Brown trade on a very shallow sense. You might look at, A.J. Brown is a baller. Give him the money. Pay the man. But I think when you look at it in more of a local aspect, we understand A.J. Brown's limitations, A.J. Brown's injuries, and A.J. Brown's demands or terms of his re-signing, the money that he wanted. First it was $20 million guaranteed, and then it was $20 million a year, and then he wanted $80 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
The more and more the wide receiver market went up, the more and more AJ wanted. It was very much so at what can the Titans do for AJ rather than let's work this out kind of thing. So that's what I disagree with Bill Barnwell, because I don't think that's where the Tennessee Titans necessarily went wrong. Does it make the Titans better without A.J. Brown? No. But I don't think that was a wrong move, signing A.J. Brown. And Bill Barnwell cites the fact that the Titans weren't willing to guarantee him more than $16 million per season. I don't think that's the truth. I understand that's the reporting that initially came out, but I don't think that the reporting or whoever was reporting to TD, who did the reporting, A.J. Brown, saying that, he would have signed for, 20, 22?
Yeah.
Saying that the Titans offered him $16 million with incentives up to $20 million. That's not accurate.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
I think the Titans would have been more than willing to give A.J. Brown 22.
I think it was the early parts of a negotiation.
Yes. But I have to disagree that the Titans offseason where they went wrong wasn't signing A.J. Brown. I think in the long run, that's going to be, in my opinion, if I can project it, that's going to be one of the best moves the Titans have made.
Yeah, well, it's a career-defining move for John Robinson, I think. But I look at it as I think given the circumstances, it was the right move because my concern was A.J. Brown becoming a problem inside the room. And I know they were in the offseason, but the Twitter stuff and deleting stuff and was he taking shade at Tannehill, just all of those things.
That whole saga.
While I think some of it was probably just silly and you just kind of write it off as that, more and more things were happening. And the fact that, he was having these negotiations, and it was, again, the early part of a negotiation. He was still under contract. Mm-hmm. He still had a year on the contract. And you could tell that he was to the point where he wasn't willing to go through that process.
No.
That he wanted it now, right now. And so I think John saw an out, and he took it. Now, he could go to Philadelphia, and he could absolutely tear it up, and he could play all 17 games. And Treylon Burks may take a year or two to develop. And that's obviously not a good look for the Titans. But
what's the alternative?
Well, right.
Holding on to AJ, giving him what he wants, overpaying him for a player that may not stay on the field consistently for 17 games.
And it would have been massively overpaying him. Philadelphia massively overpaid him. And I just would not have done that. And, I was starting to see signs of attitude that I didn't like. And this is a team that from the moment that John Robinson and Mike Vrabel took to the podium for their respective press conferences, they had the same message that they want players with a team-first mentality. And A.J. Brown, in my opinion, did not have a team-first mentality with some of the things that he was doing. So I think that they had to look at that and go, this could get worse before it's going to get better. And the window is still open, and we can't afford to have that kind of distraction from a player that's not happy with his contract. So it's best for us to just go ahead and move on. And ultimately, that's what they did. So I'm with you. I disagree with Bill Barnwell that even though in a perfect world, keeping him would have been great, and then maybe you even end up with Treylon Burks later on, 8 picks later or whatever it was going to be. But I just think that they saw the writing on the wall of where this could go, and they knew that they needed to get out.
And I have to give the Titans props for making a move that probably wasn't easy to make.
No, they made the best of a really bad situation.
And Bill Barnwell also mentions, what's next for the Titans. He mentions signing Jeffrey Simmons to a deal. If the Titans would have signed A.J. Brown to the terms that he wanted to be signed to, a ridiculous amount of money guaranteed. Jeffrey Simmons, his contract is up next too. Jeffrey Simmons could have looked at the money that the Titans were willing to deal AJ and say, okay, I want money like that. Mm-hmm. AJ's a top 15 wide receiver in the league. It got paid top 5 wide receiver money. I'm up there with one of the best interior linemen in the league. I want to get paid like it. So I think the Titans made a very strategic move. So to Bill Barnwell, again, Bill Barnwell ranking all of the NFL teams and their off seasons, ranked the Titans the 20th best offseason move. But what went wrong in not signing A.J. Brown? I get it. A.J. Brown is an absolute dude. I get it. It hurts to move on from A.J. Brown. But I have to disagree that was a wrong move that was made. 6157, that was not a wrong move made. Yeah. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought on that. But coming up next, Bill Barnwell also mentions what the Tennessee Titans could have done differently in order to boost their rankings on his list of the best and worst off seasons in the NFL, and why I disagree, and also TD disagreed as well. I'm going to get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and for Jared Stillman. Stillman and Company, ESPN 1025 The Game.
The versatile Kubota B-Series is a do-it-all tractor, part of our under 100 horsepower tractor lineup rated #1 for reliability. You can run powerful attachments that can be easily switched out. The Kubota B-Series. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
So many words to describe Panera's new Chef's Chicken Sandwiches, but just one bite will leave you speechless. Panera, the familiar made fantastic. Enjoy a $1 delivery fee when you order on their app. Restrictions apply.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
One of the cool things about working at Cromwell Media, which owns this radio station, is that we all support one another and we celebrate with each other, like anniversaries. And we've got 2 teammates celebrating anniversaries in May. Roman Havlin, one of our talented part-time hosts on 1029 The Buzz, is checking off 10 years this month. And the chief architect behind 1029 The Buzz, brand manager and midday host Chris Atticus, passes the 2-year mark. Thanks, Roman and Chris, for making Cromwell Media such a special place to work.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McCabe, Program Director of ESPN 1025 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
If you have certain chronic conditions, such as heart disease,
asthma,
diabetes, and you're 19 years of age or older,
52, 36,
42, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm going to ask my doctor
about getting vaccinated
with Prevnar 20.
Never miss a moment of the show.
What is this? Check it out.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and for Jared Stillman today, breaking down Bill Barnwell's rankings of the best to worst NFL off seasons. And of course, the first team I look for, the Tennessee Titans, sitting at number 20 in Bill Barnwell's rankings of best to worst off seasons. Of course, he mentions what went right: signing Harold Landry, ditching the salary of Julio Jones, drafting Malik Willis to be there as kind of nipping at Ryan Tannehill's heels in terms of a quarterback competition. And Chase and I both disagree. What went wrong, per Bill Barnwell, is not signing A.J. Brown. And I disagree wholeheartedly. I think it was the best move financially. I think it was the best move culture-wise. Mike Vrabel talks about culture so much within the Tennessee Titans, how not one player is more important than the other. And A.J. Brown thought he was more important than the team. So you get shipped off. And I think that was not only a message in terms of the Tennessee Titans, but I think it was a good move financially, culturally, and on the field as well. But there's another aspect to this article as well that I disagree with, and that's Bill Barnwell's idea of what the Tennessee Titans could have done differently. And this is what he writes. He says, giving Brown an extension would have been nice. One alternative, even with a Brown trade, would have been using the number 18 pick on tackle Trevor Penning, which would have pushed a 2021 second-rounder Dylan Radins inside to guard. As it stands with Roger Saffold and David Quessenberry leaving this offseason, the Titans will sort between Radins, Jamarco Jones, Aaron Brewer, and rookie third-rounder Nicholas Petit-Frere to fill the 2 open spots in the starting lineup. I don't disagree. Chase, I don't think you would disagree, and I don't think a lot of you listening would disagree that offensive line is a cause for concern for this Titans team.
Big time.
Big time. I mean, you're working with a second-year guy in Dylan Radins who last season didn't look ready. You're working with a rookie in Nicholas Petit-Frere who knows what he can do. I mean, you're
project right now.
Project.
Probably.
You're kind of looking at an island of misfit toys in terms of this Titans offensive line. No, I don't disagree that adding an offensive lineman in this draft probably would have been beneficial for the Tennessee Titans. But Bill Barnwell says what they could have done differently is drafting Trevor Penning or another offensive lineman with that 18th pick. And I also disagree with that because who would be catching passes for the Titans?
Yeah.
You trade AJ for the 18th pick. You pick up Trevor Penning, and yeah, that would probably ease a lot of your concerns, solve a lot of your problems at offensive line. You know, sticking Trevor Penning in there, you would feel a whole heck of a lot better about who's protecting Ryan Tannehill or whoever it is under center. But then that opens up a completely new problem. It opens up so many new questions at wide receiver. You trade away A.J. Brown, then who you got? Robert Woods,
right.
Nick Westbrook-Akina, Mason Kinsey.
You don't know if they would have drafted somebody else later on.
They could have drafted someone else later on. They could pick someone else up at free agency.
Sure.
But
that's why these type things are so difficult because, you're gonna say, well, you shouldn't have done this, and then then it changes your whole draft, and maybe you don't get Malik Willis. So it is what it is. I think they still did what they needed to do at the time by moving on from AJ. But yes, the offensive line is certainly a very big cause for concern.
And another point to that is where I can kind of see Bill Barnwell's side of things is this is a run-first offense.
Yeah.
You need someone opening up holes for Derrick Henry. We've seen this past season that whenever the offensive line, was so fickle, Ryan Tannehill looked so spooked. I mean, getting sacked so many times against the New York Jets, for example, I never really thought he looked the same after that. He was seeing ghosts after that. So you could make the argument of what's the most important thing in this offense? Tannehill protecting the football and Derrick Henry finding those holes so Derrick Henry can do Derrick Henry things. I don't agree with the fact that the Titans should have picked an offensive lineman with that pick because I think we would have the same discussion about wide receivers as we would about offensive linemen if that would have happened. But I think it is a fair point to look at it like this is not a pass-first offense. This is a run-first offense. So who's creating those holes for Derrick Henry? Because that's the backbone of your offense.
Yeah, and right now they don't know the answer to that, whether – they're going to put Jamarco Jones at left guard, Aaron Brewer at left guard, Radins, and then obviously one on the other side at tackle. Are they going to keep looking at free agency, see if there's any releases that they could bring in? I mean, what do they do if they go through the process this offseason and into training camp and they don't really figure it out? It's patchwork.
Nashville Sounds baseball tonight.
Good job.
Thank you. You can watch Nashville Sounds baseball tonight on ESPN 94.9.
But they go through that entire process, and then all of a sudden, Quessenberry or Dennis Kelly or somebody like that gets released, doesn't make a team. Do they jump on that and just bring in one of two guys that knows the system and can throw them in there?
But then at that point, are you just treading water? The offensive line was abysmal last year, but it would at least allow you.
It's the devil you know compared to the devil you don't.
Exactly.
And I obviously they know more than I do in personnel, but I know that the fact that Dennis Kelly sat out there basically all offseason, you just hired his brother to be the passing game coordinator. You knew you needed a right tackle. Why they didn't just go and say, hey, let's just run it back with him, bring him back. You could get him pretty cheap, and then you know what you got. You got a solid right tackle at that point. You don't have your right tackle of the future, but you have somebody solid, and then you have one spot that you're focusing on. But I think in their mind, they are hoping that they are going to be, with what they have, be able to upgrade long-term that position over David Quesenberry and Dennis Kelly. And we just don't know if that's going to be the case yet.
And TD was with us for the TD Power Hour, and a texter asked TD in questions for TD, do you think they made the right decision in deciding to fill that hole with a wide receiver over an offensive lineman? And he said, and he thought about it for a minute. It's kind of a difficult question to ask because what's the lesser of two evils? Or, do you want to go with the unknown? And TD said no. Overall, he would have taken Treylon Burks over an offensive lineman. And I have to agree. But again, that question remains, what's the plan at offensive line? And if you really want to have a true assessment of your quarterback, which I think is what they want to do with Ryan Tannehill, what's the plan with assessment of Ryan Tannehill if he's constantly on the ground because his offensive line can't protect him?
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that's what we're doing with two of our professional sports teams in this town, is at times asking what's the plan, or is the plan working? That's kind of where we're at. And I think the Titans are figuring it out. I mean, I think that they, at least they don't have nothing. They're starting.
They have
with something.
bodies.
Sure.
Do you trust them? Do you know where their level is at? That's the question.
Right. So I think that's the process. Now, look, we could get into training camp and be a couple weeks into training camp and after a preseason game, and we feel a hell of a lot better about all of this. Then we go, okay, all right, Radence has come a long way. Petit Friere is a rookie, but you got something. Or Jamarco Jones is solid enough that he can be a stopgap for you. Tannehill looks like the old Tannehill. I mean, all those things could certainly happen, but because we're going on the evidence that we have right now today, we can't sit here and definitively say that.
That's things on the table, but things that I'm not going to bet on. But let's go to your phone.
It depends on what the odds are,
maybe it's worth a sprinkle in here and there. Let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Fred in Ashland City asked about A.J. Brown. Says, I really feel like A.J. got bad advice about contract negotiations from Julio that led to all of that. I can't go there. But
that's an interesting. It's a stretch of a theory, but it's an interesting one.
I mean, is AJ's agent going to let him take contract negotiation advice from Julio? I understand Julio's an NFL vet. Julio's been through contract negotiations. Julio's gotten paid. But also, at what point, Tory Dandy, right? Is it AJ's agent?
Yeah,
I believe
that's
so.
right, yeah.
At what point is Tory Dandy gonna say, hey, AJ, you hired me to do this for you. Not Julio, not your teammate. Let me do the contract negotiations for you, and we'll go from there.
I sat here with D-Mace, and somebody asked, what would be your advice for AJ? And D-Mace said, let your agent do his job. You pay him a certain percentage, let him do his job, and get out of the way.
Exactly.
But players can't do that. Some players can't do that.
One texter texts in and says, if the big players aren't there, maybe the organization isn't as healthy as thought on the inside. I believe they're talking about OTAs, especially after the loss last year and the gut punch loss of AJ.
I just feel like we're reading way too much into this sometimes. Guys that are there, you would, in a perfect world, everybody would be there. There are certain positions, like Tannehill should be there, okay, because he's the leader on the team. Would I like to see Derrick Henry there? Yes. But do I think that Derrick Henry is doing the work and that he is going to be in shape come training camp time? Absolutely, yes. I'm not worried about that.
That's not my worry. Like the in shape side of things, or the being ready to be on the field side of things, I feel very confident that Derrick Henry and Jeffrey Simmons are going to be in shape and ready to go come training camp. That's not my concern. I think my concern is just, where are the leaders? Where is the veteran presence? I mean, Taylor Lewan spoke after OTAs, and of course, Taylor Lewan does a lot of things that benefit Taylor Lewan, but he mentioned that he wanted to be there to help the younger guys, to help the Dylan Radens and Nicholas Petit Frere and kind of be that leader and help them and guide them. I think that's an invaluable part of OTAs. Of course, again, Taylor Lewan does things to help Taylor Lewan.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a good bit of that there that he, wanted to do himself a favor. But I think that's true. I think that's an aspect of this that is important, that veteran presence and the guys in the locker room pushing other guys in the locker room, being a presence for the younger guys there. I think that's important.
I definitely think that's important. And so I think that's kind of where you get some of Vrabel's frustration because, again, the old school mentality like we were talking about with Tehran of, they were all there in the offseason. They all did the offseason work. They had that edge. I heard Jared reference that from
The Edge.
Man in the Arena. And I think that's all very, very true. But at the end of the day, I still believe that they're all going to be on the same page and it's all going to be fine with them doing their own thing and doing their own workout. So I'm not as concerned about it maybe as some.
615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a Titans thoughts, taking your calls and your texts coming up next. Plus, is there a certain aspect of this team that completely could drive your thoughts about the Titans offseason? And what exactly is that? We'll get into that coming up next. But before we do that, I got to let y'all know that ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game is your racing station.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom. Tune in this Sunday to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game for a racing doubleheader starting at 10 a.m. with the Indy 500 by NASCAR's Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Also join our very own Chase McCabe, the suit, every Sunday morning at 8 for Chase and Checkers as he talks to the drivers and gets you set for race weekend. The Memorial Day weekend racing doubleheader on 102.5 The Game is presented by Nashville Super Speedway, Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, and European Collision Repair.
This is Mikhail Kralland, and this is Nashville.
The rebound shoveled in by Mikhail Kralland, and the Predators have tied it up on the power play.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 102.5, The Game.
If you missed the latest from Darren, Donick, and Chase.
That's why Vrabel was upset. And that's why I said you really can't pick a side because you understand both. But I think that's why Vrabel's upset because he's saying, listen, y'all got what y'all wanted in this collective bargaining. What did y'all want? Y'all didn't want to spend a lot of time here. All right? Y'all got that. Now when you're supposed to be here or when organized activities start and you're not coming, that's a slap in his face. He sees it because y'all are not going to get a lot of time together. And he sees it, hey, this is a period of time we could be in here together and y'all are not here and y'all asked for this.
I mean, this is the leadership group here. Derrick Henry, Jeffrey Simmons, Kevin Byard, Bud Dupree, Harold Landry. That's your leadership group.
It's a lot of money.
A lot of defensive players, too.
Tune in Darren, Donick, and Chase. Weekdays 10 to 2 on Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
It's Family Leisure's Memorial Day sale.
So get your family swimming now. DIY pools start at just $19.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99. Installed with 6 months, same as cash.
Over 450 different packages to choose from. Guaranteed below internet prices.
Family Leisure has great prices on spas and hot tubs in stock and ready for immediate delivery. The Cypress Spa by Strong is only $29.99. Family Leisure has the one you want at guaranteed low prices.
I want to be in some new patio furniture. Family Leisure has hundreds of sets from all the best brands on sale at guaranteed low prices. And right now, free delivery.
I want to check out the new grills and grill islands. The Sabre infrared grill starts at only $11.99. Complete bull grill islands start at only $39.99. Installed on your patio with a Sabre grill. Tanning beds, pool tables, massage chairs, and more. On sale now at Family Leisure's 31st Memorial Day sale.
That's Family Leisure. 2 huge locations, Antioch and Franklin.
There are jewelry stores, and then there's Genesis Diamonds, the cutting-edge industry leader, the pioneer. It's no secret that jewelry stores across America watch what Genesis is doing. Genesis was the first to offer a free lifetime warranty, the first to offer a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee, the first to offer aggressive long-term zero-interest financing. And Genesis is always on the cutting edge in design and fashion. The styles other jewelers say are new and exciting were new and exciting for us 4 years ago. Genesis has the fashion-forward brands other stores aren't even allowed to carry. It's no wonder you see jewelers from other cities coming to Genesis to see what we're all about, and even buy their wives' jewelry from us. For selection, quality, service, warranties, and guarantees, Genesis leads. Others follow. So for diamonds, engagement rings, exclusive designer jewelry for any occasion, don't compromise. Come to the jeweler that sets the industry standards year after year. Genesis Diamonds and pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
The sounds. Play ball.
Deep left field by Reyes. Back is Dawson looking up. It's gone.
The Nashville Sounds continue their set against the Toledo Mudhens.
Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Sounds win.
Coverage begins at 5:20 on your home for Sounds Baseball.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Poyle. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Another texter texts into the to the text line and says, "Do the Titans make a mistake taking Treylon Burks with the 18th pick over an offensive lineman?"
No. Oh man, like that's a tough question. I'm gonna say no because I still think that there were guys that they could have gotten later. Burks, in my opinion, like that was like my 4th or 5th receiver, so I think they got a good one.
That was Teron Davenport. Line and says, outside of a that was Teron Davenport on the show earlier for the TD Power Hour. A texter texted in and asked, "Do you think the Titans made a mistake taking Treylon Burks over perhaps a Trevor Penning or another offensive line in the first round of the draft?" TD, I mean, it's a fair question to ask, and that's what Bill Barnwell brought up in his article where he ranked the best and worst off seasons of each NFL team, and he said what the Titans could have done differently to help themselves in the offseason is taking a Trevor Penning or another offensive lineman that was in the draft over Treylon Burks. But I think I have to side with TD that while it was a difficult decision to make, I mean, the Titans traded away one of their best offensive assets and had to fill that hole that was created. So, I mean, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. But I asked TD what he thought about the Titans offseason, looking at Bill Barnwell's article, ranking the offseasons. TD says he gives the Titans a C in the offseason. Bill Barnwell ranks the Titans the 20th best offseason in the NFL. I don't think anyone is incredibly thrilled by what the Titans have done in the offseason. I mean, they haven't brought in any sort of big splashes. Of course, last year with Julio Jones, that was the big name. That was the Sports Center headline. That was the first article up on ESPN.com was the Titans signing Julio Jones because it was an exciting name, and it's a sexy name that everybody knows. But I don't think it necessarily made the Titans better. So I don't have a problem with the Titans not making any of those big-time, splashy, ESPN.com headline type of acquisitions. But I don't disagree that this offseason for the Titans hasn't necessarily been remarkable.
Well, right, but I think the draft part's also incomplete. Like going back to the clip with TD. Last year after the draft, people were asking the questions, did the Bengals make a mistake by taking Jamar Chase instead of an offensive lineman? I ask you this, Caroline, today. Did they make a mistake taking Jamar Chase?
No, there's no homerism in this statement. Absolutely, positively, no, they did not make a single mistake taking Jamar Chase.
I mean, that was a question going into the draft because of, okay, do they get Joe Burrow, his favorite receiver from LSU, or do they get him where he doesn't get his head knocked off and get him some help?
And admittedly, going into the draft last year, I thought the Bengals should have taken Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
I thought give Joe Burrow some protection because if he's on the ground, he's not going to be able to throw it to Jamar Chase.
Do you think the Titans get to him 9 times? I mean, I don't know if one guy makes that much of a difference, but it would have been an upgrade. But are they even in the playoffs if they don't get Jamar Chase? I mean, that's just
we won't know.
We won't know. So,
but Jamar Chase was the offensive rookie of the year.
He was. And, you know, I think people don't believe that Treylon Burks is going to be the offensive rookie of the year. We have no idea.
We don't know.
I mean, you know, we don't know how that is going to work out.
Again, we'll check the odds before we put some money on it.
Yeah,
but,
no, that'd be good.
Yeah.
But I think that with the offseason, you know, was the free agency part, okay, they didn't blow anybody away, but they weren't going to be able to. I mean, they did some things, but they were hampered by the salary cap. They're going to get a little relief after June 1st with the Julio stuff. They went for that last offseason. Didn't work. Okay, you know, you move on. But the draft, I think on paper they had a really good draft. Now it's all got to play out. You know, you're not going to hit on everything, but there was a lot of intrigue in this draft with Burks, with Chigakonkwo, with Malik Willis, with Hassan Haskins, several, they had like 8 picks, so several others. So it's hard to really, truly grade the offseason overall until you see what you got in the draft. And that is what everybody's looking at with John Robinson, because he's still got some incompletes when it comes to drafting these last few years.
And that's something that I think a lot of Titans fans are looking at, is John Robinson's draft record. But I think if you're going to look at the Titans offseason, it's what I've noticed in all of these preseason power rankings. It's what I noticed in Bill Barnwell's article. They're looking at the pass catchers. So I think if in this wide receiving core, I think if you are going to look at the Titans offseason and what they have acquired in the offseason, how you view this Titans offseason and how successful or how confident you feel about this Titans team going into next season, I think totally depends on which wide receiver core you'd rather have. Would you rather have an A.J. Brown and a Julio Jones, or would you rather have a Robert Woods and a Treylon Burks? I oftentimes live in the world of, if you know what you're going to get with something and it's not great, then the alternative is worth a shot. Yes, it's a risk because the alternative could be worse. You could be moving off of something that's, working but maybe not elite and going on to something worse. You may take a step back. That's the risk that you have to take. But the alternative to that is it could be better. So I asked this question to David Beauclair yesterday, and this is what David Beauclair had to say about the 2 different pass-catching cores last year in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, and this year with Treylon Burks and Robert Woods.
But Julio is such that, even such as he was last year, like, he scared defenses. Defenses reacted to him being on the field in those times he was on the field. Even if it's the absolute 100% best case scenario with Robert Woods. Robert Woods is a really good NFL player. Does he scare defenses? Are defensive backs going, oh God, this guy can make me look bad? I mean,
but does a bum hamstring 32-year-old Julio Jones?
I think yes. I think defenses reacted to him last year because there's always the chance that he could be Julio Jones in that moment. And what was the game in Seattle? He was really good. They were, and the game against Houston late was really good. If he could have been right, that really could have been something special. But even so, he did just enough to make defenses have to say, we still have to respect the fact that he's Julio Jones.
I can't disagree more. And so I think I look at this Titans offseason with a little bit more of a glass half full approach, because I would take Treylon Burks and Robert Woods over A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, because I disagree with David Beauclair. Yeah. I don't think that Julio Jones scared defensive backs. Maybe Julio Jones 5 or 6 years ago, yeah. I may need to change my shorts if I'm a defensive back covering Julio Jones.
2 or 3 years ago.
Even that.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was anything Julio Jones did last year, barring the Seahawks game. That was a really solid game for Julio. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't consistent. He wasn't as explosive as he has been in the past. He wasn't consistent. There was nothing to me that Julio Jones did last year that I would think, wow, this is that dude. And I understand his name is Julio Jones, and he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. And he was a Madden machine, a fantasy football machine in the past. But what he was for the Titans wasn't what he was for the Falcons. So that alone, I have to say that I take the alternative in the risk of not knowing what Robert Woods and Treylon Burks can be over what we know that what we got from Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, which was in and out of the lineup, both of them with injuries. A.J. dropped balls. Julio wasn't available. Your best ability is availability. So I take the gamble and I take the risk on Robert Woods and Treylon Burks. And I think that's why I look at this Titans offense a little bit more positively than maybe some of the national football talking heads might.
Yeah, I give you we'll add the third in there. I give you A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Chester Rogers, or I give you Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Akina.
I'll take the latter. And where are you going to take Anthony Firkser or Austin Hooper?
I take Hooper.
I take Austin Hooper.
I take Chikakonkwo. I take, Jeff Swaim is the holdover, but and Michael Pruitt was a solid player for you. He was one you didn't even know you were going to get back, but then he got hurt, gruesome injury, and you bring Swaim back, and Swaim is a solid pass catching, really a blocking tight end, but he can catch some passes for you. So I think the upside for this group is much higher than the last group because of everything that you just said with Julio Jones and the fact that he just isn't the same Julio Jones anymore. A.J. Brown that's the tough one because good A.J. can take over a football game and win you a football game and go off for $125 and 2 touchdowns. But he can also drop a key catch. He can also get hurt and have bad knees and not be able to play.
And
or
$180
be half
million
speed.
guaranteed.
Right. And have a bad attitude on Twitter. So it's just a catch-22 in all of it.
No
and
pun intended.
Well, there you go.
Uh-huh.
A little bit.
Catch.
And a gamble. But I think the upside is much, much better for the group that they have right now.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get to your phones on this. What would you prefer? The 2021 pass catching core for the Tennessee Titans with A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Anthony Firkser. Knowing what you know about that pass catching core, or are you gambling with the new pass catching core? Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, Austin Hooper. We'll get to your thoughts on that coming up next. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and for Jared Stillman. We're live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman and Company is delivered. There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobis. All day long, isolated to scattered showers and storms possible in our forecast. A low-end severe weather threat possible, damaging wind being the biggest threat we have to watch out for. Highs today will be in the middle to upper 70s.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
With innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
From elegant to contemporary, Social Furniture has it all. And right now, get no interest financing on any purchase through Memorial Day. Save hundreds, even thousands on top brand name bedroom suites, living room and dining sets. Thousands of combinations in stock, ready for immediate delivery. All colors and styles are designer brand names, such as Woodhouse, Sealy, Serta, Kincaid, Bernhardt, Stearns & Foster, and Bassett. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture opens 7 days a week on the west side on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Cobra, featuring the new LTDX drivers, engineered for the longest total distance with extreme forgiveness. Internal weights create the power core, and hot face technology delivers faster ball speeds at every contact point. 4 drivers to fit every golfer's needs. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is hosting Indy 500 watch parties across all Jonathan's Grill Middle Tennessee locations. Come join your fellow IndyCar fans for Sunday's Indianapolis 500. 102.5 The Game will be at the Jonathan's Grill in Mount Juliet, and you can enjoy great specials on Michelob Ultra and Bud Light Seltzer. Patrons visiting any Jonathan's location will be eligible to enter the grand prize drawing for a VIP experience at the August 5th through 7th Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Blood Assurance, this community's local blood centers, is hiring for several open positions in the Nashville area. Be a part of a company that helps save lives by providing the local hospitals with the much-needed life source of blood. They offer competitive pay, great benefits, paid time off, and retirement benefits. Blood Assurance has a family-friendly environment. Go to bloodassurance.org/careers. Again, that's bloodassurance.org/careers to apply.
Darren McFarland.
That's the most personality I think I've heard.
Willie Donick.
Give me credit. I said it.
Chase McCabe.
I still talk to people outside of this building.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
But when they traded away A.J. Brown, of course it was during the draft, Treylon Burks, I could just tell you, mixed reviews. I'm pretty tight with a bunch of receivers coaches from around the NFL. I would say he was one of the most polarizing receivers for this draft because he's very gifted. He's long. There's certain things from a gadget standpoint you can do with him, but he's completely different from A.J. Brown. Kyle Phillips is more of a slot receiver, who's pretty good, by the way. That's an interesting pick. And Robert Woods has come back from the ACL. I'd known for a while he'd be ready for training camp, and I like that he's getting out there. But let's face it, he's a 30-year-old receiver who's coming off an ACL injury. That would worry me. There's certain questions with our offensive line. So, yeah, you're right. I love the defense that J-Rod's put together, called by Shane Bowen. But and then Vrabel with assistance. But overall, you're right. You're exactly right. I have some questions with this team on offense.
That was Adam Kaplan on the Midday Show earlier today, NFL Insider, talking about this Titans offense coming into this year. And even though I would take Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, Austin Hooper over the pass catching in the offensive core of last season, I don't disagree with him that there are a lot of questions on offense, and there probably are a lot of causes for concern on this offense. But are you going to gamble, or are you going to go with what you got? And I think that's a fair question to ask.
I mean, I think right now you have to go with what you got. And there's going to be questions every year. Mm-hmm. But I think we are all keyed in on this because of all the changes and the fact that they did address the offensive line in the draft and free agency, but not maybe to the extent that everybody hoped that they would. But, I think consider this. Injury aside, because those are going to happen. Mm-hmm. The starting 11 on offense on opening day against the Giants here in Nashville is likely to be much different as you move down the line because you're going to learn more. Let's say that Woods isn't ready. Okay, eventually he will be. Maybe Treylon Burks isn't ready. Okay, eventually he will be, hopefully. Offensive line, my guess is that's going to be a bit of a juggling act as they try and figure that out. So while ideally you start opening day with your starting 11 and that's your plan for the rest of the way, barring any type of injury, it usually 9 times out of 10 doesn't work like that. It's just, can you build upon that? Is that not, is opening day the starting point, and then you get to the ceiling later on down the line in the season? That's going to be the question. Because if it's the other way around, then we're probably not talking about January football with this team.
And that's a fair point in that we talk about week one. You can still improve and progress from week 1 to week 2 to week 10 to week 17. We're not just talking week 1. And, of course, if Treylon Burks or Robert Woods isn't ready, of course that poses a lot of questions and concerns week 1. But there is progressing that can go on post week 1. But you can join 102.5 The Game this Sunday for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix Indy 500 watch party at Jonathan's Grill in Mount Juliet from 11 to 3 p.m. Enter to win a VIP experience at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix that includes tickets, paddock passes, and an official pace car ride. Also enjoy 2-for-1 specials on draft and bottled beer. That is this Sunday at Jonathan's in Mount Juliet from 11 to 3 p.m. Let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. But first and foremost, Indy Ben texts into the text line and says, Kyle Phillips scares me more than Burks and Woods. I'm not as high on Burks and Woods as you apparently are, so I would argue losing AJ and Julio gives them a worse duo for 2022. I don't think we're talking enough about Kyle Phillips.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen limited things from Kyle Phillips, of course, in OTAs, and we talked about it with Robert Woods, is you look a lot different in practice when you don't have a DB on your tail, whenever you're not running complex routes, whenever it's not a game setting. You can look very different, but I think Kyle Phillips has a pretty bright future and could fill in that slot receiver role, if not week 1, potentially at some point in the season.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, that's going to be a fun battle to watch with Kyle Phillips and Mason Kinsey, but I think they, even though where they took Kyle Phillips 5th round, they still want him to be a part of this team. It's just like last year when they spent a 4th round pick on Des Fitzpatrick. They wanted him to be a part of the team. He just wasn't ready for it. And so now your hope is that Kyle Phillips is going to come in much further along than where Dez was last year, and that Dez is going to come in much further along than where he was last year. But this team needs a true slot wide receiver. They haven't had one in a while. They had signed Adam Humphries and hoped that he would be that guy. He wasn't. I look at my dream scenario is for them to find that Wes Welker, that Julian Edelman type that the Patriots were so good at, and maybe it's Kyle Phillips. You never know. But they need that. Like, they need multiple options, the 2 to the outside, somebody over the middle, the tight end. You obviously have Henry, but if you you go to your pass catching running back, you can do that. And so I think if all these options play out, they're going to have a lot to work with. Tannehill is going to have a lot to work with. But I do agree that not enough people are talking about Kyle Phillips. I think he could be one of the steals.
And TD brought up a good point in Austin Hooper as well, as Ryan Tannehill thrives in kind of those short passing situations. He thrives when you can dink and dunk down the field. He's not going to launch it 45 yards down the field, and that's okay. That's not what they need him to do. But having Austin Hooper there, kind of in a closer situation, I think is going to make Ryan Tannehill feel so much more comfortable. But Jay from Hopkinsville texts into the text line and says, I'm gambling on the new guys because last year's wide receiver room was nothing to count on, and there is no eye in team, so bye-bye, AJ. Good luck with the Philly media.
That's going to be interesting.
Godspeed to AJ Brown.
Does he delete his Twitter account by midseason?
I think he has to.
Oh, I would love to set odds on that.
Let's check the books.
Let's check the books.
But
I would say yes, minus 250.
I mean, keep your peace, AJ, because they're not going to be nice to you. If he's upset and worried about death threats from, Titans fans in Nashville,
yeah,
like Jared always says, the people in Philadelphia booed Santa Claus. They'll bill you.
They booed Santa Claus and they threw snowballs at him.
And if you drop passes in a playoff game, they'll boo you too.
They have a jail in the stadium. Like, that's how they work.
You need to make a way to a Philadelphia game. That's just unreal.
Or maybe you don't.
Maybe it would be best if I do wear an Eagles jersey. Maybe I just fit in, wear my camouflage, so nobody yells at me.
I asked a former Titan one time, and I won't say his name. He doesn't work here. I said, "What city did you just dread going to the most?" And he was like, "Philly." Like,
that doesn't shock me.
We were pulling in on. He was like, we were pulling in on the bus one time, and somebody threw a bottle of Jack Daniels at the window on the bus.
Oh my gosh!
Like that, just
absolutely insane.
Yeah. So,
jeez.
Good luck, AJ.
Good luck, and Godspeed, T's and P's to AJ in his Twitter account mentions. But Jay from Hopkinsville, I think, makes a fair point in that the talent level of last year's wide receiver room, I think, is completely different than the being able to count on them level of the wide receiver room. Because, I mean, AJ, yeah, he's a dog. What could Julio have done if he was consistently on the field? And I don't know, probably more than what he did, but they weren't. AJ was on and off the bench. Julio was on and off the bench. So, talent level aside, you just couldn't count on those guys.
Yeah, and it's accountability. You got to be able to have accountability.
Mm-hmm. And Craig texts into the text line and says, does Hassan Haskins give us a viable pass catch threat out of the backfield?
I would say that he's more of the Derrick Henry type. Now, I think that Derrick got better at that, but Hilliard is the pass catching running back. And I like that. I like bringing him back. I thought that was a good move.
And they need a pass catching running back. That's not what Derrick Henry is.
No,
he's not gonna be.
And they weren't able to get that, the last few years, until they found somebody like Hilliard. But I think Hassan Haskins is the hope. There is he's going to take a little bit of the workload off of Henry.
And Matt from Camden texts in and says, what's crazy is that the Titans have moved on from Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith, Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown over the last 2 years. Which sounds crazy when you list off those players as a whole, but if you look at each individual circumstance, they all make sense. Like moving on from Julio Jones, but Julio Jones had 1 touchdown.
I got 2 words for you. Patriot way.
No one person is bigger than the team. Do your job.
That's right.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, it is power ranking season. Gotta love it. Gotta love the offseason. But where exactly does Pro Football Focus put the Tennessee Titans, and why? Why I think they were put where they were, why Chase thinks they were put where they were. We'll get into that coming up next. Plus, your phones as well. You're listening to Stillman and Company featuring Caroline Fenton on ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You love the game.
Duchesne scores! Titans touchdown!
We live the game.
He's more of a physical receiver.
Are you looking for him? Is he making plays?
We are.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game seven.
Checker flag in the air.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Nissan. Have you ever seen a commercial for something that they build up to be amazing, only to be completely disappointed? You have these high expectations, and then boom, all the wind taken from your sails. The product isn't what you expected, and you end up feeling let down and maybe even lied to. Sound familiar? So many car dealers promise more than they can deliver, and you end up with extra fees, and your payments end up higher than you expected. You don't get that when you shop at Newton. The price you see on the site is the price you pay at the store. You can even work your deal online with Newton FastPass. We want all our customers to have a VIP buying experience. You don't have to take our word for it. Hundreds of our customers leave reviews online each month talking about our honest and transparent buying experience. The proof is in the pudding. Come see for yourself. Shop and buy online with Newton FastPass at newtonnissan.com. See website for details, pudding pop, bomb pop, kingofpop.org.net.com.edu.
The Ainsworth Nashville has been bringing a sophisticated twist to the classic all-American sports bar, restaurant, and private event experience in Midtown since 2018. Our multi-purpose venue consists of a full-scale restaurant, bar and lounge, and event space. Come for the wings, stay for our happy hour, and visit us for brunch on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We've got the good times to keep you singing all night long. The Ainsworth Nashville. Burgers, cocktails, sports.
Visit the Ainsworth at 206 21st Avenue South in Nashville or online at theainsworth.com.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McKay, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
How do you make the most of your land? If you ask the Wrens, who run with us on a John Deere mower, they tell you,
I mow first, then I do all the trimming.
But the Hubbards, who work behind the wheel of a John Deere compact tractor, would say,
if it's something you want, just go after it and try it.
Then there's the Mosers, who may mention from the seat of their John Deere Gator UTV,
you can't be all work and not play.
There are millions of ways to make the most of your land. Learn how to make the most of yours at Deere.com. Nothing runs like a Deere.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge.
But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $69.99.
You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUZ HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game. And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. We're live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. We're streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry, Caroline Fenton, joined by the suit, Chase McCabe, filling in for Jared
How you
Stillman
doing?
today. Hello to the suit. Like we said, S&C is no longer Stillman & Company. It is Suit and Caroline.
I'd be careful saying that. You just made a bunch of people happy, and they're just going to be disappointed.
It's just temporarily,
Yes,
the
yes.
Suit and Caroline.
I
Temporarily.
kid.
To all
Yes.
of you Jared haters out there, he will be back eventually.
You love to hate him.
I think everyone does. But it is power ranking season. Gotta love it. Pro Football Focus has their preseason power rankings out, and they listed, all of the teams in different tiers. True contenders, could be their year, eyes on the playoffs. And that's exactly where the Tennessee Titans land, is the eyes on the playoffs category. They have the Dallas Cowboys at 12, the Eagles at 13, which I have my qualms with. Arizona Cardinals at 14, Colts at 15, Raiders at 16, and the Tennessee Titans at 17, which would leave them 1 out of the playoffs and 2 second in the AFC South behind the Indianapolis Colts, not winning the division. Now, we can break down all of this, but I think the more important thing to me is why? Why exactly does Pro Football Focus have the Tennessee Titans as a fringe playoff team, as the Tennessee Titans not winning the division, a division that admittedly, from where we sit today, isn't incredibly competitive? And I have my thoughts on exactly why, and I will not bury the lead here. I think it's A.J. Brown. I think the league looks at A.J. Brown as, a top 10, top 15 wide receiver. As this is an offense with Ryan Tannehill incredibly dependent on A.J. Brown in the past. I think they look at this pass-catching core taking a step back before it takes leaps and bounds forward. And that's fair. They're changing the pass-catching core. They're getting younger, trading away in A.J. Brown and getting younger and healthier in Treylon Burks. I think they look at A.J. Brown and say, this pass-catching core, this offense is taking a step back. I think, too, another reason why Pro Football Focus has the Titans 17 on their power rankings, I think it has to be Ryan Tannehill. It's not something that the national media is talking about because the most recent move, the most recent acquisition is A.J. Brown. But I think that so many times when you look at the success of a team, you look at their quarterback. I mean, why does Pro Football Focus think that the Los Angeles Chargers are the 5th best team in the NFL in 2022? I mean, I don't think it's because of Keenan Allen. I don't think it's because of Brandon Staley go for it on every single 4th down and 2-point conversion every touchdown. I think it's Justin Herbert. So I think that's the biggest thing here. That is, kind of the differentiating factor between the Titans being a playoff team and not being a playoff team, at least in the eyes of the national media. They're looking at Ryan Tannehill. They're looking at what he did in 2021. And I don't think that the national media necessarily believes in Ryan Tannehill. And I don't blame them for that. I mean, this time last year, I was campaigning for Ryan Tannehill to be a top 10 quarterback in the league. It is list season, and we broke down so many quarterback ranking lists going into the 2021 season. And I said it wasn't fair when Ryan Tannehill wasn't listed as a top 10 quarterback. Look what he was able to do in 2019 and 2020. I mean, Ryan Tannehill was an absolute baller in 2019 and 2020. But in 2021, he took a massive step back. He threw the game away against the Cincinnati Bengals. If they got past the Bengals, could they have made it to the Super Bowl? Maybe. You can make the argument that they could have. You can make the argument that Ryan Tannehill was what kept that team back in the playoffs last year. So I think when you look at the Tennessee Titans, out of the playoffs, not winning the division, in at least Pro Football Focus's power rankings. They look at Ryan Tannehill and they just don't believe in him.
I think you're spot on. I think AJ does factor into this, but I think Derrick Henry and what he is going to factor into this. But I think ultimately it comes down to, and I want everybody to think about this for a second. It comes down to the question that we have asked multiple times since he became the starter. Can Ryan Tannehill put the team on his back in the playoffs and win? And the answer to this point has been no. That you look at the year that they went to the AFC Championship game. How'd they get there? It was mainly Derrick Henry. Now, did Ryan make some pretty big throws? I was there in Baltimore when he found Khalif Raymond for a touchdown. But you look at the stats, and TD was in here earlier. He uses the phrase, stats are like bikinis. They show you a lot, but not everything. Like I like that. That's, I think that's fair.
That's a good one, TD.
That's a fair one. But I think that ultimately everybody looks at Tannehill and goes, he's not able to do it. He's not able to put the team on his back and win the big one. And until he does it, people are going to think that. So I feel like that's why they find themselves in the position that they do when you look at these power rankings.
And you make a very fair point. And can Ryan Tannehill put the team on his back? I look at Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Those are the kind of quarterbacks that, if nothing else, I trust that guy with the ball in their hands. Ryan Tannehill is not that kind of quarterback. It's not what the Titans need him to be, because that's not what he is. He's not the kind of quarterback that can carry you single-handedly. So we talk about the pass catchers and we talk about Tannehill, and I think you bringing up that point makes me think as well. They may look at Tannehill as the kind of guy that gets elevated by the players around him. Mike Vrabel said, you got to be great around Tannehill. So when he doesn't have those players, or at least the players around him leading into the season are question marks, Robert Woods, Austin Hooper, Treylon Burks, Derrick Henry even being a question mark. I mean, a player that's been a constant in this offense and for Ryan Tannehill over the past couple of years. He is a question mark going into this season. When you are dealing with a quarterback that players need to be great around him, that he is supported by his supporting cast, that Tannehill's ceiling is only as high as his offense will get him there. When everything else around him is a question mark, and he himself is a question mark in that himself, that could be a recipe for disaster. Now, it is a question mark. There's a side of that, Robert Woods could be Tannehill's favorite target, and that Robert Woods balls out. Let us not forget that Robert Woods was behind Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. with the Rams. I mean, those are really talented wide receivers. So Robert Woods is a baller now. He was just behind the Super Bowl MVP in Cooper Kupp. I mean, Robert Woods could be his favorite pass catcher. Treylon Burks could get over whatever he's dealing with and fill in seamlessly into the hole that A.J. Brown left when he was traded. Kyle Phillips could ball out. Austin Hooper could build great chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. He mentioned it at OTAs. That's something that he really wanted to work on doing, was building chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. They could end up being a really solid supporting cast around Tannehill, but they also could not be. I mean, there could be holes in this new cast as well. So I think when you look at Ryan Tannehill being the kind of quarterback that needs to be supported by his supporting cast, when that's a question mark, I mean, it's not a good duo there.
Yeah, it's not. But, again, it's all going to be up to him to prove it. Up to Tannehill, I should say, to prove everything, to prove everybody wrong, whatever the weapons are. And I think that ultimately that's how you're going to decide what happens with this season. And then, even then, I mean, think about this. What if they go and they ball out and everything works out with Treylon Burks and Robert Woods and all these pieces that they've added, and Tannehill is the big reason that, because he's taking care of the football, he's getting rid of the football, the offensive line has helped, and they make a run, which a run would be to the conference championship game. Does he still get credit? Or are there still the doubters out there? Because my guess is there's still going to be the doubters out there.
There's still going to be doubters out there, but I do think in just being the quarterback, you get a lot of the blame, but you also get a lot of the glory that maybe you don't necessarily deserve on either side. But I do think just being the quarterback, you do get a good bit of credit there, even if it is a Derrick Henry thing, even if it is a defensive line thing, which I think both are very likely scenarios. If the Titans do go on, deep into the playoffs, I still think that Ryan Tannehill is gonna get a good bit of the credit. But there's gonna be doubters out there.
Of course, there always are. I mean, they're just it's kind of. I'll use this comparison. There are people that just never wanted John Hines to be the head coach of the Predators, and they have stuck by that. And
there's not going to be much that changed their minds.
And he could win the Stanley Cup, and they'll still find something wrong with it, and because they have just made up their mind. There are people that just think Ryan Tannehill is not a good starting quarterback, and you're not going to change their mind. And those people exist. That's just how it is.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Now, we're talking a lot about this pass-catching core, and there's one element of it that could be really boom or bust depending on one player in one aspect. We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, in for Jared Stillman today. You're listening to Stillman and Company. We are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5"
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Invite you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We are offering some exciting new menu items. For breakfast, we have a smoked prime rib hash. Comes with a sunny side up egg, hominy, caramelized onions. It's a great start to your day. We are featuring a sourdough pancake made with a sourdough bread starter. It's a fun spin on the classic buttermilk pancake. As always, Kitchen Notes is serving biscuits all day. Come join us and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Breakfast at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
When I retire, I plan on being busy. Bird watching, cooking, traveling. I might even write a book. But I never thought I'd have to plan on being an expert on all things Medicare. Fortunately, with 75 years of experience helping Tennesseans, the experts at Farm Bureau Health Plans helped answer all my Medicare questions. So no matter what I plan on doing next, I understand all my options. Talk to your local representative or visit fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
If you're shopping for a new home, the last thing you want is another surprise jump in mortgage rates. Hey, Willie Donick here, excited to tell you about Loan Pronto's all-new rate protection program. You get a rate quote that is locked in for 180 days, 6 whole months. Brian and Amy did it. They locked in an APR in the 3s with Loan Pronto. When they finally found a home a month later, rates had jumped into the 4s, but they were protected thanks to Loan Pronto, and they saved over $200 a month on their payment. With Loan Pronto's rate protection guarantee, you can make offers with confidence. And there's no fee for this, no upfront cost. And most home buyers who go with Loan Pronto save about $3,000 in closing costs. Call now for the all-new rate protection program so you can check rate increases off the list of things to worry about. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. 499-5780. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval.
Smokeville Smoke Shop has been serving Hendersonville and Metro Nashville since 2015 and is committed to providing high quality, hands-on, and personable customer service. Stop in the Smokeville Smoke Shops in Hendersonville, Gallatin, Hermitage, and Goodlettsville to try any of their wide selection of locally sourced products and selection of top nationwide brands including vapes, hookah, hand-blown glass, detox systems, e-juices, kratom products, leaf wraps, a dab bar at the Hendersonville location, and much more. Visit Smokeville Smoke Shops today.
Hi, my name's Kevin. I'm active duty, so I'm figuring out my options while I'm stationed here.
Hey, Kevin. Navy Federal Credit Union is celebrating Military Appreciation Month, so you called the right place.
Guess you could say it's like a match made for Kevin. Get it?
Very good.
At Navy Federal, our mission has been to help the military community for over 85 years. During Military Appreciation Month, we're celebrating the commitment that connects us. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/celebrate. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way, I'm watching a game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe for Jared Stillman today. Breaking down this Titans pass-catching core. Looks incredibly different, 2022 from 2021. Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, Austin Hooper, Kyle Phillips, of course, Nick Westbrook-Akina. You know, our one constant coming in this pass-catching core. But
NWI.
Joe Rexroad-Akina?
Yes,
I've
his
heard
favorite.
Joe talk more about Nick Westbrook-Akina.
Willie loves him, too.
What in the world is in the water in this place?
Well,
no disrespect to Nick Westbrook-Akina. He's a solid player.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Like, because I had the same reaction you did, and I know you have a place you want to take this, so this is a little sidebar.
By all means.
But I'm sitting here the other day, and we were talking about NWI with Willie, and I was like, okay, I mean, he's fine, and everybody's asking, can he go to another level? He's not a number one, he's not a number two, but he's a pretty solid, mid-level receiver. He had 476 yards on 38 receptions and 4 touchdowns. Okay, that's for what he makes and what you're asking him to do. If you get 550, 600 yards out of him,
it's a solid season,
and maybe 6 touchdowns. Like, okay,
plain bagel.
Yeah, plain bagel. Yeah, that's fine.
He's not offensive.
Nope.
He's not great, but he's not bad.
Sometimes you like the plain bagel.
He's there when you need him. Nick Westbrook-Akina is a plain bagel.
I like cream cheese, but
Yeah, plain bagel with cream cheese. Nothing special,
Yeah.
but it's there when you need it.
Right.
And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need yourself some Nick Westbrook-Akina.
Right.
So no problem. No disrespect to Nick Westbrook-Akina whatsoever. But this new pass catching core, I believe, is anchored in Robert Woods. I believe that Robert Woods is probably going to get a majority of the touches this season. I think that Robert Woods, at least going into this season, I think is going to be Ryan Tannehill's favorite target. I think that he's going to be that guy. But that all hinges on one thing, and that is his availability. He is a 30-year-old wide receiver, and he is coming off of an ACL tear. And I always operate under the conditions that an ACL tear in this day and age in the NFL, it's almost like it's a rite of passage that you have to go through. It happens a lot. Ryan Tannehill tore his ACL. He came back, and oftentimes players come back from an ACL tear without a hitch. But D. Mace was on the midday show yesterday talking about Robert Woods and his injury and his availability. This is what Derek Mason had to say about Robert Woods for this upcoming season.
But right now, he's probably right where they want him to be. You can't. If somebody tells me he's going to be ready day one, I'm going to turn around and walk away because nobody knows.
You just can't know.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know when anybody coming off an injury, how they're going to play or when they're going to play until they start getting pulled and pushed and everything else. We talked about it with Taylor Lewan. He looked great. But what happened when he got into the season? When the real stuff started to happen, he looked as if a guy that was a step behind. And he admitted it.
I mean, he said he would turn around and walk away to anyone who says that Robert Woods would be ready week one. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I understand that Robert Woods is an older receiver in NFL years. I understand that an ACL tear can be, incredibly lucrative in terms of the recovery time, how he can bounce back, how he's going to feel getting back in game shape. He tore his ACL, October, November?
That's what I was just trying to refresh me. I think it was November.
November. So late in the season, but still he hasn't been on the field in a game setting since November.
It was November 7th.
Okay, November 7th.
Against the Titans.
Isn't that funny how things work out?
Yeah.
So I hear D-Mace. I hear him.
Or no, it wasn't in a game. It was in practice. That's right. The Titans was the last game that he played.
And then tore his ACL the following week?
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
So I hear D-Mace, and that there are probably a lot of factors working against Robert Woods. But I don't know if I can go that far as to say that he won't be ready week 1. And I don't know if that's because I saw him in practice and he was running around fine, or, the timeline would match up, November to September. That's a 10-month recovery. That's about on par for what you would see for an ACL tear. So I don't know if that's logic telling me one way or if that's just my heart speaking louder than my head and saying that if Robert Woods isn't ready week 1, then the Titans are putting themselves in a really, really difficult position. So if Robert Woods isn't ready week 1, to D-Mace's point, D-Mace has played the position.
Yeah.
What do the Titans do?
Well, this is what I'll say, and I would say this to D-Mace, and we've had this conversation. And obviously, Derek played the position. Derek knows what goes into the position. Mm-hmm. And I've never played receiver, and I've never had a torn ACL. But I feel like what we have seen in the last 15, 20 years is the ACL tear is not what it used to be. Mm-hmm. It's a much easier surgery. The rehab time, I feel like, is
it's a bruise, it's a bump.
It's quicker. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, it doesn't take as used to. It was a year. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like Tommy John. Like you're done for a year. Now, you may see like Odell Beckham. He might miss most of this season because of when it happened. But I think for Woods, I mean, he's already on the field. He's already making cuts. He's already looking like he's well on his way to recovery. So while he may not be his true self and 100%, at the start of the season, to say that he's not going to be ready, I don't know if I completely buy that. And I say that, respectfully towards D-Mace, that I think he'll be out there. I mean, Bud Dupree rushed it back. Mm-hmm. Now that's what
we saw our issues with that.
That's what they're going to have to try and prevent, is they don't want Robert Woods to do what Bud Dupree did and try and rush it back. Because it's the muscles just have to heal and build strength. And, once it's fully healed, I've been told by people that have torn their ACL that their knee's even better. It's like Tommy John, like your Tommy John surgery, like your arm's even better after that. And so it's even stronger. But it just, is it going to be to the point where he can be effective by the start of the season? And I think that's what D-Mace is really concerned about. We'll just have to see.
And it's also the consistency of if he's ready week 1, great. But to your point, Bud Dupree rushed it back, and then after that, Bud Dupree was in, was out, was rehabbing, was kind of continuing.
Lawan didn't look the same.
Lawan didn't look the same. They continue to rehab as they're playing, and that's not a good position to be in. If you are, what I think Robert Woods is going to be is Tannehill's number 1 target. And when you're making those really quick cuts, when a DB is on top of you, I mean, when you're recovering while you're playing, you don't put yourself in a good position. I mean, you're making a lot of lateral movements on your ACL. And when you're recovering from that, it puts yourself in a really tough position. But then again, I go back to, what's the Titans' plan? If so. But let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lance in Clarksville is up next.
Yes, ma'am. I was just thinking, you guys still hadn't mentioned the thing that drives everybody you're talking about, the quarterback, the running back, and the wide receivers. There's 40% of your offensive line that's gone from last year. And you have a 2021 draft that didn't play at all, a first-round draft didn't play at all last year, hardly at all, unless they just got in a bad situation had he played. And you got a third-round draft pick. If those two players don't turn into something or something else surface, then that'll make a difference what Derrick Henry or Tannehill or those wide receivers, because nobody will be able to throw it and nobody will be able to run it. The most important positions right now is that offensive line. And that was proven last year when you made your defensive line make your secondary that much better. So,
yeah, thank you for your call, Lance. Yeah, thank you for your call, Lance. I don't fully agree with the fact that, if your offensive line can't develop, then it doesn't matter what Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill do. Yes, your offensive line being able to block and create holes for Derrick Henry and to be able to block for Ryan Tannehill, that makes their job so much easier, but I don't think it necessarily doesn't matter. But I do think that Lance brings up a good point, and that this offensive line is a massive question mark. And a lot could depend on that offensive line. We saw what Ryan Tannehill looked like last year with an inconsistent offensive line, with an offensive line that couldn't protect him probably as well as we would have liked, with an offensive line that couldn't create holes for Derrick Henry consistently. And it wasn't a good look. So I think the protection for Ryan Tannehill, just seeing how reactive he could be to pressure last season, it is a concern. So the offensive line, very much so, is a concern. Can Dylan Radins take a massive leap forward to be able to be a consistent starter in this offensive line? I hope so. That's going to make this job so much easier.
Yeah.
Where can he line up? That's another question. Is he more of a tackle? Is he more of a guard? Is he going to be able to take on that right tackle position? I don't know. And I think it's a fair question to ask. And I think it's something that is a concern for me moving forward.
Yeah. No, and it's all fair. I mean, it's the offensive line is going to not be the be-all, end-all, but it's going to be a big part of it. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just keeping Tannehill upright. You know, I mean, if you go to that and have more pass protection, and also the run game, you know, and I think
it's a run-first offense.
Yeah, TD made a really great point talking about Roger Saffold and what he was able to do at left guard and opening up those lanes for Henry or whoever's running the ball. I mean, they're going to miss that. So I think it's one of many concerns and questions that they have going in.
Yeah, absolutely. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. It is Power Rankings season, so we know where the Titans stand at 17 in Pro Football Focus's Power Rankings. What does the rest of the league look like? The rest of the AFC look like? Who do we think is overrated and who could also be overlooked? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe, and for Jared Stillman today. You're listening to Stillman & Company. We are live on ESPN 1025 The Game. And before we get into all that, I got to tell y'all about Caesar Sportsbook because it is time for the Caesar Sportsbook Report. Now, if you place your first bet with Caesar Sportsbook, it's risk-free, so no worries, up to $1,100. Just download the app and use the promo code RADIOCZR. That's one word, RADIOCZR, and then place your first bet. And if you win, then congratulations. You just got a little bit richer. But if not, no worries, because you'll get that wager back as a free bet. Now, if you need something to place that first bet on, look at the Edmonton-Calgary game tonight, the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton could take the series tonight, so I'm taking Edmonton on the money line, plus 130 odds on the Caesar Sportsbook app. I think they're able to get it done against Calgary tonight. But hey, that's my take. Do it how you want to do it. Just do it with the Caesar Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and physically present in Tennessee. New users only. Bet amount of qualifying wager return only if wager is settled as a loss. Paid as a single bet credit. Must be used within 14 days. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesar Sportsbook. Download it, people.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs,
and I-840.
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Family Leisure's 31st Memorial Day sale.
DIY pools start at just $19.99. 24-foot pools are only $29.99 installed. 6 months, same as cash.
Great prices on spas and hot tubs. The Cypress Spa by Strong is only $29.99.
I want some new patio furniture. Family Leisure has hundreds of sets on sale.
The Sabre Infrared Grill starts at only $11.99. Complete Bull Grill Island start at only $39.99. Installed with a Sabre grill head. Tanning beds, pool tables, massage chairs on sale now.
Family Leisure, 2 huge locations, Antioch and Franklin.
Family and fun come together.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. One of the things I love about betting my favorite sports is that I'm always finding new player props or game props that I like. And what's cool about FanDuel Sportsbook is you can combine prop bets from multiple games and even now multiple sports. It's called Same Game Parlay Plus, and you can only find them on FanDuel. Combine NBA player props that you love with your favorite baseball home run hitters for a chance to score an even bigger payout. That's right. You got to love the fact that right now Golden State looks unstoppable and Aaron Judge is hitting home run after home run. If you don't want to build your own same-game parlay, check out their popular same-game parlay section where you can join the bets that other users are jumping on. And if you're new to FanDuel, sign up with the promo code JGM to get your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Make every moment more with the FanDuel Sportsbook app with the promo code JGM so they know that I sent you. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issue is non-withdrawable site credit. that expires in 7 days and restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
With all the new people moving here recently, we thought it'd be a good idea to explain Genesis Diamonds. If you've lived here a while, you know all this, so bear with us. Genesis Diamonds is not an ordinary jewelry store. It was started decades ago by a major diamond wholesaler based in Tel Aviv. He was the diamond supplier for hundreds of upscale jewelry stores. Then he decided to start selling direct to the public at prices that undercut traditional jewelers in a big way. This no middleman approach caught on fast and disrupted the traditional jewelry business model forever. Today, Genesis Diamonds continues that extraordinary value promise. With the highest quality diamonds, the lowest prices, the strongest guarantees, exceptional service, and a mind-blowing selection of fine diamonds and exclusive designer jewelry. So if you've just moved here from New York or California or wherever, we invite you to discover the secret the locals are well aware of. Genesis Diamonds. Just another great reason you made the move to this extraordinary place we're proud to call home.
If you've been thinking about remodeling your home's kitchen or bath, contact the countertop experts at Smoky Mountain Tops. Willie Donick here, and I'm proud to tell you about my longtime friends. We installed Smoky Mountain Top surfacing in our kitchen years ago, and it's remained durable and super easy to clean up. Smoky Mountain Tops is proud to offer the new prestigious Vidara Quartz for your kitchen or bath countertops. Check out the stunning new Vidara Quartz shown at Smoky Mountain Top Studio. Contact the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops. Quality, service, and dedication. SmokyMountainTops.com.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey Nashville, this is Rick Stockstill, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe in for Jared Stillman, hanging out with you today. Now, we've been looking at the Pro Football Focus Power Rankings. Where do the Titans stand? But also, you're only as good as your competition. What does the rest of the NFL look like? Most notably, what does the rest of the AFC look like? Because, I mean, the AFC is a freaking gunfight this season. I mean, the quarterbacks in the AFC this season, it's a really, really tough conference. But breaking down Pro Football Focus's power rankings into true contender category, could be their year category, and eyes on the playoffs category. Now, Chase and I were kind of discussing this at the break. A few teams to me that I think are overrated or also underrated. I look at the true contender category in Pro Football Focus's power rankings. Buffalo Bills, yeah. I think they're true contenders. I think that they were one of the best teams in the league last year.
Yep.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as long as Tom Brady's your quarterback, you're going to be a contender. I don't know if they're the second best team in the NFL, which is where Pro Football Focus has them listed, but I do think that as long as Brady's your quarterback, you're going to be a contender. The Rams sitting at 3. Can the Rams repeat? I don't know if I'm there necessarily. But when you got Cooper Kupp and when you got Aaron Donald, I do think that you can be in the conversation. The Chiefs at 4, Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. I do think that without Tyreek Hill, this offense is a little bit of a question mark, but I'll put them in true contender category. Now, the team here listed as a true contender that is a little bit of a question mark for me, that I think a lot of national talking heads are very high on, a team that I think has a bright future, but I don't think is necessarily in that Super Bowl contender status that a lot of people are high on. It's the Chargers.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they were very aggressive this offseason, yes. Adding Khalil Mack, yes, that makes them better. I think Justin Herbert is a dude.
Yeah.
I think Justin Herbert.
J.C. Jackson added him too.
Another one. But true contender, I'm not there yet.
I mean, I don't know.
They didn't even make the playoffs last year. Their coach makes questionable decisions, always goes for it on 4th down, going for 2 after every touchdown.
It was his first year, though.
It was his first year, but I don't know if I'm there as the Chargers as a true contender for the Super Bowl. I don't think I would put the Chargers in the same category as the Bills, as the Bucks, as the Chiefs, and as the Super Bowl reigning champions.
I think they're in play. I mean, I think they're a playoff team. Like right now today, I do believe they're a playoff team because I think you put it best. Justin Herbert is a dude. I mean, I think I totally buy into that. It's just with that division, where do they slot in? Because everybody's still saying Kansas City is still Kansas City because they have Mahomes. That's fair. But you can't tell me that losing Tyreek Hill and replacing him with Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster is making you better.
Schuster. We talked all day.
Sky Moore? Okay. I like Sky Moore.
Yeah, I like Sky Moore.
I think that's a good addition. But
also a young guy. Yeah.
So is Kansas City still Kansas City? Or are they going to take a step back?
Kansas City didn't look like Kansas City at the beginning of last season.
No. And I mean, they've had offensive line issues.
Mm-hmm.
They've had defensive issues. So I think they still deserve some respect. And Mahomes
still have Travis Kelce. They still have Patrick Mahomes.
Sure. But could the Chargers be that new blood in the AFC that everybody's kind of known in the back of their head, like, hey, they're building over here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're on the way. Now they actually have to do it. And then does Russell Wilson make Denver that much better?
See, I'm not sold on Denver.
I'm not either.
That's another one. Ranked 7th in the Pro Football Focus Power Rankings in the could be their year category, behind the Packers. Now, I didn't think the Denver Broncos were a team that was just an elite quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. Yes, Russell Wilson makes them better than Drew Lock. But who's he throwing to?
That's the question.
A new head coach. And Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, I fully believe that the Broncos were going
that hire.
All in on Aaron Rodgers.
They were.
But he didn't call plays in Green Bay. How successful can he be as a head coach? Yes, Russell Wilson does make you better. But, I mean, a Super Bowl contender better? 7th best team in the NFL better? Maybe. But I don't think that Russell Wilson elevates this team that much.
We'll just have to see. I think your point of who does he throw to, I mean, that's the big question. You know, does he have the horses that he's had at times in Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer,
one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, and Tyler Lockett and DK.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore in Denver.
No. And, you know, I'm curious of what happens with DK moving forward and all of that, and how good he's going to be without, you know, Seattle, you know, what they do. But and then the Raiders, like, what are the Raiders? Are they taking a step forward? They did make the playoffs. They now have Josh McDaniels as their head coach.
They now have Devontae Adams.
They have Devontae Adams, and so Carr has his go-to guy. They still have one of the best tight ends in the league, and Darren
Waller the baller.
Yeah, so I almost called him Lawler, like Jerry the King Lawler. But and then get out of that division. What are the Bengals? Are the Bengals legit?
The AFC North is so interesting.
Or are the Bengals hungover and they take a step back? What the hell is Cleveland?
What the hell is Cleveland?
I mean, right now, you know, Deshaun Watson's going to be suspended.
For how long?
Do they keep Baker?
When?
6 games.
6 games?
Do they keep Baker and have I say no. They don't keep Baker. Baker's not on the roster. So
what do you do for those 6 games?
You figure it out.
Figure it out? Do you just, do you gamble on those 6 games?
Because if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm sitting there going like, ain't no way I'm going to stay here and start these 6 games for you and then turn it over. Because what if he goes 6-0? You just paid Deshaun Watson all this money.
$250 million guaranteed, and then Baker Mayfield comes back from injury. Baker Mayfield is not a bad quarterback.
No.
Baker Mayfield was injured last year, and say what you want about his attitude, and I think Baker does have a bit of a chip on his shoulder type of attitude. He's not a bad quarterback. And, I mean, if he does start those 6 games, if he doesn't get traded, because I think that you will be hard-pressed to find a team that's willing to give up a ton for Baker Mayfield, because I think every team in the league
they're going to
knows
have to cut him.
They know that, like, they have to get rid of Baker Mayfield. So you can pick him up for nothing.
He's sitting pretty because he knows they're probably going to have to cut him, and then he'll sign on somewhere. He may have to be the backup, but it may be one of those situations where we're not in love with the starter, so we're going to bring you in as the backup, and when you're up to speed, if things aren't going well, then it's yours.
Is that Seattle's plan?
It might be Seattle's plan. I mean, Seattle makes the most sense, for him.
Drew Lock at starting quarterback. You can't assume that that's your long-term. Yeah, Wolf is right. You can't assume that that's your long-term solution at quarterback. Are they waiting for Baker Mayfield to be released and they pick him up like that?
Probably.
Maybe.
I guess.
But then that's the other question about
sure,
the
there's a
Cleveland
lot
Browns.
of tampering going on. I'm sure there's a lot of tampering going on.
I am not naive to the fact that there is probably a lot of rule breaking going on. But, I mean, hey, it's the NFL. But that brings back to my point about the AFC North.
Yeah.
The Ravens.
Baltimore, yeah.
Can the Ravens bounce back? I mean, they were riddled with injuries last year. Can they bounce back? Lamar is going to get paid sooner or later. So is Lamar looking at that like this is my year to prove it for a big-time deal?
How much should he get paid, though?
Not $250 million.
I've never been a believer.
In Lamar?
I've never been a believer in Lamar.
But I think if you're the Ravens, like, what are you without Lamar Jackson?
Well, I mean, you're nothing. But see, that's the catch-22. But I mean, he's been their best running back. That he's been their run game. They did have injuries last year, but I didn't believe in him going into last year. Ryan Porth laughed at me on the money line because I said they were going to finish last in the division, and I turned out to be right. So,
but I think even in this division, the AFC North, I think the Steelers are the most likely contender to be finishing last. But honestly, that's okay. I mean, the Steelers are rebuilding. I mean, they're bringing Mitch Trubisky. He'll probably be the starting quarterback, at least in the beginning. Kenny Pickett will take that job. But to me, the Steelers, I mean, I don't think they make the playoffs this year, but that's okay. But I think you're looking at the Browns and the Bengals and the Ravens, and those are three teams that, it's crunch time. They need to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
How do you justify guaranteeing Deshaun Watson that much money if he's not able to win you enough games to make the playoffs? The Bengals, do you have a hangover? Is Joe Burrow going to be a Dan Marino where he makes the Super Bowl in his second year and never sniffs it again?
That's a good question. If I were going to bet on it, I'd say no, but I would say he's an MVP. He's going to win an MVP. It could be this year.
He is a dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's elite.
I mean, there's something about quarterbacks that you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, and I love watching him play.
He is fun to watch. I mean, his football IQ is through the roof. And I think as long as Joe Burrow is the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, then they're going to be contenders. They're going to make it into the playoffs. And then building up that offensive line, protecting Joe Burrow, I think is only going to make them better. But also, I mean, a Super Bowl hangover is real.
Yeah.
That's the question in the AFC North is what are these teams going to be? Can they take steps forward in this next season? If Baker Mayfield is healthy, if he is the backup for the Cleveland Browns, can he fill in those 6 games and go 6-0? Those are all big fat ifs. And I think it's fair to ask. And I also look at the Raiders. They're at 16 in Pro Football Focus's rankings, one spot ahead of the Tennessee Titans. I don't know what that team's going to be.
Well, and I think that ranking is a product of their quarterback too.
Yes.
Of what can Derek Carr be?
Derek Carr is one of those.
Maybe the head coach, but
he's one of those quarterbacks that I don't know what he is.
I think he's good. I mean, I don't think
he's not elite.
No, but I mean,
he's not bad.
I think fan bases, I should say, get caught up in the he's not elite, so he sucks. Like, no, not every quarterback's elite.
Who tends to classify quarterbacks that way.
Barrett Pillman, that guy?
Rhymes with that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought on the state of the AFC going into the 2022 season, but also there's something not too far away from us that has been a big old mess the past couple of days. The SEC baseball tournament. We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe filling in for Jared Stillman. ESPN 1025 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobis. All day long, isolated to scattered showers and storms possible in our forecast. A low-end severe weather threat possible, damaging wind being the biggest threat we have to watch out for. Highs today will be in the middle to upper 70s.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
You purchased a fine European automobile because of the amazing drivability and great looks. Then someone slid into you during a rainstorm. European Collision Repair is Nashville's premier location for collision repairs. Their state-of-the-art facility is certified by 30 vehicle manufacturers. The best part is their customer service, and they can provide an estimate simply by you sending in a photo of your damage. If you have a fine European automobile, have the repairs done at European Collision Repair. Go to EuropeanCollisionRepair.com.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Titleist, featuring the new Titleist Vokey SM9 wedges, their most superior handcrafted wedge design ever. The new SM9 grooves are cut to maximize the interaction of ball and face for lower flight and higher spin. Get precise distance and trajectory control like a pro with the SM9s. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home with a 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
Introducing the first Nashville location of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Midtown. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ with fun, effective, and empowering group boxing circuit workouts. Become a founding member today. Stop by the brand new studio in Midtown at 2041 Broadway, Suite C, or call 629-206-9092 to join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
Hey, is this line secure?
Franco's cybersecurity firm secured a contract, and that's all we're allowed to say.
We have a green light on hiring.
He needs web security professionals with a military background.
3 teams of 4, 24-hour rotations, but Protocol Zulu is on a need-to-know basis.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard, so you can stay organized and connected all the way to the hire. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Shop our Memorial Day savings at Lowe's, where you'll find our Charbroil 5-burner gas grill with griddle insert special buy $298, valued at $349. And take advantage of Craftsman Days. Buy a select Craftsman V20 starter kit, get a select Bear tool for free, up to a $99 value. The savings are heating up this Memorial Day at Lowe's. Home to any budget, home to any possibility. See store at Lowe's.com for details. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. Valid 5/26 through 6/1.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexroad.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexroad. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Chase McCabe hanging out with you here. Chase in for Jared Stillman today. Now, Chase, I don't know how closely you've been following the SEC baseball tournament.
Not too closely, but a little bit.
So the Aggies just ruled Florida in 7 innings, 10-0. But, I mean, the biggest storyline for me with the SEC baseball tournament has nothing to do with what's going on with the baseball on the field. So there have been so many games postponed. Even the game today, Florida and Texas A&M was supposed to be played early this morning, was postponed to 2:30. Several games on Wednesday pushed back to Thursday, pushing back the games on Thursday further and further. This whole tournament has been a big old mess.
Yeah.
I mean, and my question is, how in the world has this tournament been played in Hoover, Alabama in May? I mean, it rains in the Southeast in May. How do they not have a backup plan? Because this has been a complete mess. So many games have been pushed back. I believe Tennessee Vanderbilt is supposed to be played at some point today.
Yep.
May or may not be in a rain delay. I don't know. I'm trying to find some updates. But this is, I can't imagine the first time that rain has been a threat. Here it is. We'll pull it up here. How in the world do they not have a backup plan? Because they're going to turn to, most likely what I can only assume, they're going to turn to a single elimination series, which originally in the beginning of the SEC tournament,
Tennessee
Vandy top of the first. So they're going to most likely, I can assume, switch to a single elimination tournament just to fit all of these games in a timely manner, which affects tournament seeding, which affects potential regional host sites. I mean, Vanderbilt is most likely playing for a regional host site. I know LSU is playing for a regional host site. These games matter. These games matter in terms of the postseason. So if you're going to switch up the tournament seeding, potentially change the outcome of the NCAA tournament, of the SEC tournament, how do you not have a backup plan? How do you have one field available for all of these games that need to be played when you know that weather could potentially be an issue? I mean, are the alternatives finding a new host spot for the SEC tournament, which has been played in Hoover, if I'm not mistaken, since the beginning?
Yeah.
Do you find an alternate field? Do you find a turf field? Do you move it somewhere that's a little bit, weather friendly? I don't know.
You can move it to the Trop.
You can move it to Nashville.
Well, I say the Trop because it's indoors.
That's true. Do you move it indoors just to
No.
eliminate the threat of weather?
No,
I mean, I love the idea of it being played in Hoover, but this entire weekend has been such a mess. I mean, I feel for the people who took off work to get hotel rooms to come to Hoover, who have been sitting around just waiting for their teams to play. This is the first game Tennessee has played in the SEC tournament. I know LSU has yet to play in the SEC tournament. They're supposed to play tonight, but it could be pushed back to tomorrow. Yet again, pushed back for the second or third time. I mean, the whole thing is a mess, and when it has repercussions as big as the SEC tournament does for some of these teams, like Tennessee's fine. Tennessee's going to host a regional.
Yeah, but this is big for Vandy.
It's big for Vandy. I mean, a regional host site is on the line, which is big for Vanderbilt Athletics, which is big for Vandy baseball to be able to get that home field advantage. I mean, this whole thing has just been poorly managed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, like you say, backup plan, I don't know exactly what you do. You can't control the weather. That's the problem.
But you can control what you do in response to weather.
Right, but I mean, like, what are you suggesting then? Like, if they
another field, so you can play 2 games at once. So you can play 2 games at once. You can fill in a few more games, so you can go back to that double elimination structure. Do you move it to an indoor site?
And that's fair. And I mean, they would have, because they have Hoover, and then they have, I think they do have 2 fields in Birmingham now, because they have the new park.
That's true.
That has the minor league team. Mm-hmm.
Do they use it though?
The Biscuits.
The Biscuits.
Yeah.
Biscuits.
The Barons. Montgomery has the Biscuits. The Birmingham Barons.
Barons
where Jordan
not
played.
as fun.
Yeah, but
Not
that's where
as
Jordan
fun.
played. So, I don't know. I think you bring up a good point, but I mean, like, even if you came to Nashville, you're playing First Horizon Park. You're playing, which it was on the table. I mean, that was a few years ago. They made a bid for it, and they ultimately kept it in Hoover.
Vandy has a turf field, so if you are dealing with weather issues, which, that's a realistic possibility. When you're dealing with a turf field, the field conditions aren't a problem if you're dealing with rain.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think there's a perfect scenario for anything. It is frustrating, for the players and the coaches and the fans to have to go through that. But at the same time, the weather is what the weather is, and you're in May in the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a lot to deal with, and you just got to work through it, and especially with a sport that's played outside. So
right.
That
threat is there throughout the season, but I'm looking at a tournament setting with such huge implications. I go back to a couple of years ago. There was a fog game, and the fog was horrible over the field. Do you remember that, Nick? The fog was horrible. There were balls hit that would have been really easy outs that weren't outs because they couldn't see a damn thing, and weather is going to be a factor in whatever, in baseball, that's just what it is. Baseball's played in the summertime. It rains. There's fog. I understand that. But I just think in a tournament setting, when it's all thought through so much, there's so much organization that goes into this tournament, and they don't account for one factor that you can't control when it happens, but you can control how you react to it. I just think, is it time to revisit the SEC baseball format? Is it time to revisit where the game is played, how the games are played, in order to maintain how the tournament is supposed to be played? I think it's a fair question to ask.
It is, but I'm curious of how tomorrow works. If they're able to, because, they were supposed to have a ton of these games today. They obviously can play tonight. But then, do they pick it up early in the morning and get through some of this?
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is, are you going to have some teams playing doubleheaders?
That's a competitive disadvantage.
But to get the tournament in, and I think everybody knows, like, if anyone that has been involved with, travel ball and those tournaments, there's just, it doesn't always
there's
go
only so
according
much
to plan.
that you can do.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, playing at night. Like Vanderbilt played a game the other night at 10 o'clock. You got to do what you got to do, and it just depends on what are your priorities. Is it eliminating doubleheaders? Is it, we're fine with playing early in the morning, late at night if we can eliminate doubleheaders, or let's not do that. Let's just, fit 2 games in the middle of the afternoon. I don't know. But I just look at how all of this has been managed, and it has been a big, fat mess. But again, Tennessee, Vanderbilt underway. Top of the first, 0-0, Vandy, Tennessee in the SEC baseball tournament. But that is going to do it for us today on Stillman & Company. Caroline Fenton, appreciate the suit for filling in for Jared Stillman today.
I'll come back and do it tomorrow.
Hey, let's do it.
It'll be fun.
Back tomorrow at 2. Stillman & Company, listening to ESPN 102.5 The Game. Elijah Campbell breaks down the Titans coming up next on The 6.